Absolutely. So we'll get 9 o'clock. We'll get started. Hi, I'm Steve Thompson, president of Emery Thompson Machinery, and welcome to Make It Fresh. Today we have a big crowd, and we're going to make a bunch of different things. Jeff is not here. I'm told that he's off in Hawaii checking out macadamia nuts for a new flavor of ice cream, but he'll be here for the next time we get together. So I'm going to fill in for him as far as what he was going to make. I've got his recipe book, and that should make it a little easier. And I think what I'll do is I'll get started right away getting a product going, and then from there I can start telling you a little bit about the company and answering questions. And by all means, please, as you have questions, raise your hand right away, because if you let it go 5 or 10 minutes, then you might forget it, or I might forget to come back to you. So just put your hand up, and I'll answer the questions as best I can. So let me pass out the original agenda, which will get moved around a little bit. Oh, okay. Thanks. And the first flavor we're going to make is a coconut water ice. You'll just take a couple and pass them around. I purposely put down the term water ice because, oh, I need one of those. Thanks. I put down water ice because when people call up here, I can tell where you're from. If you say Italian ice, you're from New York. If you say slush, you're from New England. If you say frozen lemonade, you're from one of the major amusement parks. And if you call it Italian water ice, you're from Philadelphia, because that's what they call it there. If you're from Bay 8th Street in Brooklyn, it's called Granita. And the interesting thing is the only difference between, I use the Jersey Turnpike as an example. Granita in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood where they only speak Italian, is a very coarse Italian ice. It's almost crunchy. And in a 6-gallon batch freezer, it's going to use 6 pounds of sugar, which is very low. The sugar controls the smoothness of the product. Nothing else controls the smoothness of the product like the sugar does. So for a very coarse Italian ice, a Granita, a Granite, it's 6 pounds of sugar. We go into Manhattan and we sell Italian ice, and New York-style Italian ice, and it goes up to 7 pounds of sugar. That makes a smoother product. You go down the Jersey Turnpike to Philadelphia, where they call it Italian water ice, and all of a sudden the product's even smoother still, and it's using 8 pounds of sugar. So 8 pounds of sugar, 14 quarts of water, and 2 quarts of lemon juice is going to be my secret formula for a lemon ice, and that's up at the website that you can pull these down from. But that's what controls it. Not so much the machine and not so much any other ingredients, but the sugar content. Now, over in Staten Island, there's Ralph's Italian Ice. That's Larry DiStefano. And he's built a very big business making cream ices. Cream ices, and we're going to make one of those today, is sugar, good morning, sugar, water, flavor, and the addition of some ice cream mix. And we'll talk about what mix is, but basically the stuff that's sold to McDonald's to make a milkshake. We add some of that. In a very simple form, you could just add some heavy cream to the Italian ice formula, and you would have a cream ice. Kind of, on paper, kind of like sherbet, but not really, because sherbets tend to be much sweeter and much more sticky. The cream ices are very refreshing. So there's a lot of different versions of the very same product, and the only thing you're changing is the sugar content. So we're going to start with the CB350, the countertop, and I thought I'd go the whole way on this and show you how it all works. Let me back up and show you what my grandfather was working with back in 1903. He had this thing, and we all have used these growing up. We all had one, a rock, salt, and ice machine. You had an inner cylinder, and I'm so old, mine had a crank. You probably had a motor. And then you surrounded it with ice and salt, rock salt. You know that water freezes and melts at 32 degrees. The lakes freeze over in the wintertime. You almost never see the oceans freeze over. Sometimes we get the Hudson River freezing a little bit, but you're not going to see Long Island Sound freeze over or any other saltwater bays around the world, because the salt reduces the freezing point of the water. So by putting rock salt in here, we're getting much colder temperatures. And we put our dairy product in here, milk, cream, sugar, and secret ingredient, skim milk. And we put our strawberries in there, and then we turn this crank for about 40 minutes, and we get a quart of ice cream. And that's what my grandfather was running back in 1903. And we've updated the machine over the years to where instead of being vertical, it's now horizontal. And it's a very simple reason. It's called Newton's Law. He made vertical machines until 1919, and then he decided that it was a primitive method because Newton's Law says that whatever goes up must come down. So if you put a bunch of strawberries up top in a vertical machine, most of them are going to fall to the bottom. There's no way to get an even whipping action when you're fighting against gravity. So he turned it sideways, and then instead of the rock salt and ice, we use Freon gas, just like in your home refrigerator, which gets the barrel cold. And then we're going to have, instead of the wood paddles, this beater that is going to spin around and make the ices. Our design is they're spring-loaded, and that means that whether the blades are 1 month old or 5 years old, they're still going to throw against the walls and scrape perfectly because of the spring action. So let me get this going, and this will show you just how simple this is. And since I'm alone up here today, I'm going to make you all come up later bit by bit and do some of this, because I know how to make ice cream. And so I'll let you see how easy it is, too. The one thing I hear from people that have looked at our 115 hours of videos is it really as simple as you make it look? Well, it's actually simpler. In fact, the other comment I get, which they don't really say to my face, but it's fine, is, if that idiot Steve Thompson can make that, imagine what I could do. And that's more to the truth.
Steve, what did you put on there?
Oh, I put on a technical term would be a sanitary lubricant, and this one is made by Sanitation. There's one made by Petrogel. Petrogel Taylor has their own called Taylor Lube. They're all basically Vaseline, is what it is. And so if you're in some far-off place and you can't get a tube of this, a tube of Vaseline will work fine. Now, the health department, since you bring that up, says use a tube of Vaseline, not a jar. They say that you're contaminating the jar by putting your finger in it. Well, try telling that to our parents. I don't think they ever, really worried about that when they were raising us. But this will not get into the ice cream, and it will. It is perfectly sanitary, and it's called a food-grade lubricant. So you saw that just slipped in real nice and easy, and that's all there is to putting that together. The door is very heavy stainless steel that we machine here, and it's a lifetime door. It doesn't wear out. If you go on eBay, you'll find lots of doors for sale for Capigianis because they only last 5 years. We build things to last forever. I use the 4 nuts, and there's a reason for everything that I do in building our machinery. There's most of the machines out there, because they all copy each other, they're all from Italy, use a cam action, throw it over and down. It looks really cool. I mean, it looks like a real nice system. The only problem is it warps after about 5 years. You've got to replace the whole door. This system works perfectly, and you never have to replace it. So that's why I haven't changed it. In fact, even though this is a new design of 4 years, we kept it the same as the old designs. I could put anything on the machines I want, but this is the best way to hold it. So I'm going to sanitize this. I've got my water here. And again, I'm using Sanitation, which you can find on the internet anywhere. We also sell it, but pick it up on the internet. And you just put that in there. Now, again, in a pinch, all these sanitizers are chlorine-based. So if you had to sanitize something in a hurry and you didn't have any Sanitation or any of the other products, you could use a cap. I made my own mistake. A cap full of Clorox bleach. Not a cup, a small cap of Clorox bleach to a gallon of water, because this is nothing more than chlorine. I like to have this around, even if I'm going to use chlorine, because the health department, sometimes they freak out when they hear that you're using chlorine. And I've gotten too old to fight the argument of, well, what do you think I put in my swimming pool? You know, it just doesn't jibe. You can't win with the health department. So I keep this around so they see I know what I'm doing. So I just stir that up. Dissolves very fast in cold water. And that's going to kill off any bacteria that may have grown in the machine since I used it last, maybe even last night. All right, just put the lid on. I'm going to turn that up to high speed and start it. Now, the second that hits the metal, everything is sterilized. But most health departments say we want you to run it for about 2 minutes. So whatever your health inspector says, that's the directions that you follow. When we make ice cream and ices today, we're going to have the refrigeration on so it's going to get cold. And then when the product's ready, we're going to turn off the refrigeration and we're going to pull the product out with it still spinning. Because the ice cream will be quite a bit thicker than water. If I open this now, I'm going to get a bath because water is so loose. So I turn it off, and then I drain it out. Now, again, depending on the health department, they might say that this is ready to go. And if you follow and read the instructions, which I'm not very good at following instructions, you don't have to do a rinse after this. But I do. I like to rinse. I think it's more psychological than really a factor, so that I know there's no sanitizer left in there. So I'm just going to have, but health inspectors have said that by putting fresh water in here, I'm contaminating the machine. And my answer, again, I'm always very snide to the inspectors, what do you think my Italian ice is? It's tap water. So, you know, again, it's an argument you can't win, so let me just, you know, I fought the fight for you. You cannot win that argument. Just do what they say. And all I'm doing is spinning the beater. That's why I have the lid. Okay, take that out. Now I'm going to keep my sanitary water off to the side here because anything that's going to come in contact with the product, I can dip my spatula in there first. I can even dip my hands in there. And now everything is more sanitary than it was. All our barrels have a slight pitch to them, so as long as your floor is level, it's all going to drain out of the machine. Now we're ready to go. If I ran this machine now for the next 15 hours, non-stop, without taking any breaks, I wouldn't have to re-sanitize because I haven't contaminated anything. If I take a half-hour lunch break, the health department would probably allow that, but I always re-sanitize after lunch. So you don't have to sanitize after every batch because you haven't touched anything. You haven't gone into the machine. So let's try the coconut. I've got 11 ounces of sugar. And I'm going to get 2.5 quarts of water. So let me use one of these. Now, a very good question that always comes up is, do I have to filter the water? Being from New York, we know darn well that you can't make a bagel without, you know, New York City water. Did I give out the wrong form? Oh, you got it there. You need New York City water to make a good bagel, and there's actually some, you know, reasoning behind it because it's the rising of the dough. The Italian ice is a little bit different, and sorbets in the approach, and that is, we're here in Brooksville, which, if you notice driving up here, is in the middle of nowhere, and we have no tourists. Nobody comes here to visit. It's just a very far away rural town. So if I set up an Italian ice business, I'm selling to the residents, the people who live here. They grew up, the water's terrible here. It's got so many minerals in it, it's just absolutely undrinkable. We have bottled water. We're, you know, being a little snobby. But the residents who live here, the people who grew up here, they grew up on this water, so they don't know the water's bad. This is what they're used to. So you make the Italian ice with the water that they're used to. Now, if I go down to Miami, everybody in Miami is from New York. and on vacation, I need to filter the water to get those minerals out. So something as simple as a Culligan, you don't have to go to reverse osmosis, but just a Culligan system, something that's going to take the chlorine out, is going to do a whole lot better. So your location will determine whether or not you have to filter the water. So we've got the sugar, I've got the water. Let's put that in. Sugar dissolves very easily in cold water. You don't have to heat it up or anything like that. Okay. And I'm going to pour that in. Oh, I forgot to tell you that when you're pouring this in, before you go to pour the product in, it's going to sound silly, make sure the gate's closed. Because invariably, someday, you're going to be pouring the product in and it's going all over the floor, and you're going to curse me out because the expletive deleted machine is leaking, and it's because you left the gate open. Trust me, I do it all the time. I mean, if anything can go wrong on a live demo, I've done it and can continue to do it. So now we're going to add the cream of coconut, and there's lots of different brands. Let me just get this going. Now, this is the infinite overrun control, which we can talk about later, but I'm picking, it's running at different speeds for different products. So I'm going to set it for Italian ice and start. It's going to take me up to full speed. And the reason is, the only way you get air in a product is from dairy fat. Dairy fat cells expand, and that's where air comes into place. Water, if you put this formula into ice cube trays and froze it, would expand 17%. You know how a lake freezes, or if you don't put antifreeze in your engine block, it'll actually break iron. But water only expands 17%, and in overrun terms, that's 34% overrun. So when someone tells me they want, no overrun in their ice cream, it's not conceivable. It can't happen in nature because because water expands. Let me get this one open. Now, there's all different brands of cream of coconut, and you can use whatever one you like. For me, it came down to what was available in the store. Yes. Sweetened. Spatula. And I don't think I got any for today. So it's just one of those things I'll be leaving out. Nope, that's too big. If Jeff was here, he'd love to tell you that I make lousy ice cream, but great machines. And he's somewhat right. But see, I like to experiment live, so when I'm doing these classes, I'm often trying out new things. Because that's half the fun of it. That's half the fun of having a machine. Yes? Yes, he does. And I'll show you a copy of it in a little bit. I'll have to go into my office and get it. And we're going to use some of his formulas today for other products. Oh, it's right there. I'll hold that up. This is why you have a lid. Now I'm just going to let that mix for a second, then I'm going to taste it. This is Jeff's book, his top 20 recipes, and they're great. He's got tricks in here, like we're going to make M&M candy ice cream today, and his is better than mine. I used to take the M&Ms and just dump them in the machine, and you would get pieces of M&M. His is better. He grinds them up in a Cuisinart, or in a blender, and then throws them in, so it's a powder. And so for every speck of dairy, there's a speck of M&M right next to it. Makes for a better product. So I do a combination of some in the machine and some out. Now let's see, I'll get a squeeze cup. Who's familiar with what that is? Has anybody seen that? That the technical term for that is a pleated water cup. If you ask us, we call it a squeeze cup because you put the Italian ice in it and you squeeze it up from the bottom and you eat it like that. It's a lot of fun. But if you ask anybody you ask your paper supplier for squeeze cups, and you're outside of New Jersey or New York, they never heard of it. So the technical term is pleated water cup. Now again, that's all liquid. If I open this up, I'm going to get a bath. So let me turn it off. And the nice thing about Italian ice is going in, what you taste is what you get. Ice cream changes. I'm going to put more coconut in. Ice cream changes, but Italian ice is exactly whatever you put in is what you'll get out. Okay. Nice large opening, so it's easy to get everything in there. Oh, that's not what I want. Italian ice, start. And refrigeration on. I just start a timer. Now here's the first thing that's radically different from me and everyone else, is I don't put frivolous gadgets on my machine. Here's a $6 timer. It's probably going to work for about a year and a half, and when it breaks, I'm going to throw it away and buy another one for $6. The other nice thing about it is, although you should stay right next to your machine, your job here is to make ices and ice cream for the next few hours. You're not supposed to be waiting on customers. You're not supposed to be balancing your checkbook. You're supposed to be here making product. But if for some reason you have to drift off, there's a phone call you absolutely have to get, your timer can go with you. And of course, you can use a Rolex watch, or you could use an iPhone. They'll all do the same ideas. They're giving you time. I don't put it on the machine like everyone else does for very specific reasons. First off, to go on this machine, it would have to be Underwriters Laboratory approved. That brings it up to $200 to buy. It would have to be NSF, which is National Sanitation Foundation. That adds another $100. So that's a $300 timer, which then, if you're everyone else, is tied into your refrigeration, and it shuts off your refrigeration. So if that $6 timer goes bad, you have a $300 bill to replace it, you have $125 for the repairman, and your machine is down until they come next Monday to make the repair, or Friday, or whenever it is. But anyway, your machine is down. If that breaks, I'm not taking down the machine. Just had a guy from Australia write me something that I have known for a long time, but he was watching a demonstration between his machine and another one, a Capajani, but it doesn't matter whether it's Electrofreeze or Bravo or anyone else. It makes perfect, Taylor has what they call the Hardomatic, and it's something I invented back in 1972. Before them, I put an amp meter on the machine, and the idea was as the product gets thicker, the amp load on the drive motor gets larger. So you can have it's set for, say, 10 amps, and boom, your compressor shuts off. My idea was that if you had a big franchise like McDonald's, you could have an instruction book that says vanilla is 10 amps, strawberry with higher sugar content is 11 amps, throwing a lot of M&Ms in might take it up to 12 amps, but that was the idea. With their machines, the machine makes perfect vanilla ice cream or gelato. It always shuts off at the appropriate amount of amps. You don't see an amp meter. It's just tied to the refrigeration switch. Okay, we're at this load, shut off. And that's how theirs works. So I have done so many demonstrations where the salesman has to go back over like this and turn the machine back on, maybe once or twice, because the machine has shut itself down. So it was a great idea when I invented it. I didn't put it widespread on my machines because it was flawed by the fact that every product is different. I make ice cream in about 8 minutes, vanilla ice cream. But Italian ice could take anywhere up to, say, 16 minutes. So I like the very simple, no frills timer that we put on there. I just put it on as a guideline. I put it on for 10 minutes. I don't want it for the exact time that I know it's going to be because I want to be able to, I want to hear the bell and say, oh, I've got a minute to get back to the machine and check it. Ice cream making is not hard at all, nor is sorbet, but it does take paying attention. It's not automatic. Yes?
You're asking me to not check out the machine so that you can restart it.
I'm sorry?
You're asking me to build into the machine. Does it shut the machine off if the load gets too heavy?
I didn't put the amp meter on the machine. So no, it won't shut off. If you walk away from this machine and go talk to someone, the machine, the electronics on it will measure the load and will shut it down. Yeah, but then you got to come back to a frozen mass of ice cream, and it's your fault. I mean, think about it. If you put a steak into the oven for 10 minutes and you come back 20 minutes later, what are you going to get? You're going to get a burned steak. So the moral of the story is when you're broiling a steak, you got to be there near the grill or to be able to check it. That's why I say, well, a friend of mine up in Massachusetts, we call him our resident curmudgeon, Gary of Gary's Ice Cream. Wonderful guy, but he's a curmudgeon. And he's got a sign over his ice cream room that says, we love our customers, we think you're wonderful, go away, I'm making ice cream. And that's basically what it means. You have to stay making the ice cream. Italian ices, sorbets, sorbettos, they're all going to come down to a mathematical formula of sugar content versus water. I had a customer call up the other night. I give everyone my home phone number. No CEO in any industry gives out his home phone number. Mine's 914-643-7391. It's also at the website, and if you call here on a Saturday afternoon and you have a burning question, it'll give you my home phone number in case you forgot. 914-643-7391. The reason I do that is because almost nothing goes wrong with these machines that isn't related to the customer. And so the customer called me up on Saturday afternoon about 4 o'clock. He's had this machine for 3.5 years. He was one of the first ones to buy one. And he said, it's frozen up solid, and I'm really upset by it that your machine isn't holding up the way you said. So I said, what are you making? And he said, I'm making cherry Italian ice. Okay, taste it for me. What's it taste like? So he tastes it, and he says, oh, gosh, it's awful. It tastes like cherry juice and water. I said, you left out the sugar. And without the sugar, all you're doing is freezing a giant ice cube. This is what makes it sorbet, is sugar. So if you leave the formula out, but see, the good point is, if it was any, and this is Friday afternoon at 4, or Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, if it was anybody else calling up any other company, they would have gotten answering service and say, yes, we'll have someone out there on Monday. That someone would have come out, and I'm not going to use names like Taylor, but they would have come out and they would have changed the expansion valve for $250 plus the labor. And then they would have said, okay, let's make some cherry ice and test it. The guy mixes his sugar, his water, his cherry juice, he puts it in, the machine runs great. It's fixed. It's a miracle. How wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. There was never anything wrong with the machine. It was what the customer was doing wrong. So that's why I give out my home phone number. What do you got here?
That's your machine. It's different than what you're showing us.
That is our old generation of infinite overrun control. That's the old push button. I don't have one here to show you. We went over after 1.5 years of testing. This is a screen made by Panasonic that goes to our infinite overrun control. And what it does is, on the old ones, we gave you guidelines of where I thought different products should be made. Gelato at 140 RPM, homemade ice cream at 234, super premium at about 160. And we put it all into the program, so now you can just hit super premium and start it, and it's going to ramp up to 165 RPMs. The concept behind this is really pretty simple. Let me check my product. It's getting there almost. The concept of the infinite overrun, which is now, I invented 12 years ago, and nobody has yet to copy it, if you put heavy cream in a bowl and you stir it by hand, it's most likely going to remain heavy cream because you can't stir it fast enough. If you take an electric mixer and put it in here and stir it, it's going to whip up to whipped cream. So the higher the speed that you can whip it at, the more air you're going to get. Now, where the trick comes in is in your dining room at home, you have your 100-watt bulbs, and you dim them down to a romantic 25 watts. You are literally taking 75 watts of power away from the bulb. So if you just put a dimmer switch on this machine to take the power away, you lose all your pulling power, the ability to pull through the heavy Italian ice. It's what in cars they call the torque, the strength to move the vehicle. No matter what speed I run this at, I'm going to get the same amount of torque, the same amount of pulling power. So with one machine, I can do frozen custard, which is very low. Then I can do gelato, which is higher than frozen custard. I can then go up to Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry, who we put into business. They're at 40% overrun. I can do super premium, which is a little higher, and all the way on up to homemade American ice cream, which is you put 1 gallon blend in and you get 2 gallons of ice cream, which is also a great ice cream. And remember, we're in business to make a profit. We're not here to be, save the world or be altruistic. We're here to make a profit. So if you're selling a low air content ice cream in a middle-class neighborhood where everybody else is buying a cone for $3 and you're $6.50, you're just not, you may have the greatest product in the world, but you're not going to be in business long. You're overpriced for your neighborhood. Okay, I'm just looking at this and seeing how it cuts off. I can pull this at any consistency I want, but I like this. I watch this. I turn that off, and watch how fast that comes out. Marketing is so much fun because the other machines have bars. There's nothing blocking the way. I've got a guard, so if you're prone to walk in front of a bus, you can't put your hands into the machine. The other companies use bars, which slows the process down so much, and they take that negative and say, oh, but our ice cream comes out so nice and decorated with little ribbons. But imagine, back to that steak. You broil the steak in 10 minutes, but it takes you 3 minutes to get the steak out. That steak's going to be charred. So the same thing with a good gelato. If it takes me 3 minutes to get all the product out, it's going to be different. The first part is going to be different from the last part. And as I like to tell people constantly, consistency is the key to business. McDonald's, I think we'll all agree, is a lousy hamburger. One of these days they're going to watch this and they're coming after me. McDonald's is a lousy hamburger, but it's the same lousy hamburger in Tampa as it is in Manhattan, as it is in San Francisco, as it is in Bangladesh. Doesn't matter where you are. When you walk through the Golden Arches, you know what you're getting because they're consistent. And that's what we want. I was talking with one of the founders of Swenson's, an old franchise from the 70s and 80s that we dealt with. And I said, what killed your franchise was inconsistency. You were a West Coast franchise, you opened up on the East Coast, and you didn't police it. You said, oh, it's too far to fly someone to go check on it. So they're changing the formulas, they're buying from different suppliers, and then advocate comes by, a food advocate on the radio, Joan Hamburg, and says, oh, I was just out in San Francisco, and I went to Swenson's there, and they just opened up on the Miracle Mile in Manhasset, which is Long Island. And you know what? It's just not the same. Death to Manhasset. It's just not the same.
Do you recommend changing over the older control to the new touchscreen?
If you have the old control keypad to change this, no, I wouldn't. They're both doing the same job. This is just easier. So come on up and try this. I'll bring you over some. I'll take the first taste to see that it doesn't kill anyone.
Does it make that much difference to you outside of the texture not to add the coconut?
No.
Simply a texture is not.
No, it's not even texture. I just don't like pieces of coconut.
Excellent. That's what I was curious.
Let's see. I've got bowls here, and here are spoons. So if you'll help yourself to the spoons, I'll work the bowl.
Just a smidge for me, please. Thank you. Very kind. Here comes Sadie. She heard your machine.
Yes, Sadie. Sadie has never barked in her life, but in the last 6 months, she has become very vocal as to what she wants. Hi, sweetie.
She heard that we're serving ice cream.
Oh, yeah, she loves it. And you can have all you want. Now, again, this is one of these, gee, if Steve Thompson can make that, imagine what I could do. And that's true. Everybody's going to make their own different creations. I'm just showing you mathematically how the product is put together. And there's a trash can over there. You don't have to eat it all because we're going to be doing this all day. Hi, I know.
Our Shelby goes crazy when you open the bottom freezer door because she knows you're full of ice cream.
Yeah.
She figures she's getting some.
But she's giving me I just came back from being sick. Can't you give me some?
Thank you.
Just one. Is it lemon sherbet?
No, this is coconut.
Thank you.
Now, one of you came up here and made an interesting comment. And I'm just full of useless information. It comes from doing this for 42 years. I started when I was 16. You can have a little taste. Okay, that's all. Yeah, I got cheated. Someone said, oh, I just want a small portion. So those of you who are going into your own ice cream parlor, it brings up a whole different, I can talk on any subject. It just brings up a whole different thing. There is always a fight going on between ice cream parlors of whether or not we should have, you're going to have, I like small, medium, and large. Or one scoop, actually I like 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops better. Because medium and large, if you're not, a stick figure, you're thinking to yourself, oh, gee, how am I going to look if I order a large? I really want a large. But 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops sounds better. But the argument is always, should we do a children's size? And, of course, it's a good idea. But if you do a children's size, you're going to get seniors coming in about Jeff's age who are going to say, well, I want the junior one. Do we sell to them? At this point, Jeff goes, hell no, I don't sell to the seniors. They can buy what I want. I say you never want to turn down a sale and you never want to turn down money. When I would do the National Restaurant Show in Chicago, I'm 23 years old. I'm giving the stuff away for free, and the faster I give it away, the sooner I can sit down. And so someone comes along and she says, "Could I just have a little bit?" And I whap it in there. That's too much. And I had no compassion for this whatsoever. Lady, come on, it's free. Well, seniors don't want that large a portion. They just don't. It happens. And so it's not a bad idea to have a junior portion for children of all ages, I like to say, because it's the grandparents who bring the kids, and that brings more volume. And if you're, Paula's parents, when they were alive, would go to the Milleridge Inn on Long Island, and they would ask for smaller portions of the roast beef. They said, but it's the same cost. No, we just want a smaller piece, because they just didn't want to have that much food. And so in an ice cream...
Older people don't like to waste food either, because they grew up during the Depression where you didn't waste anything.
That's right.
So even though they don't mind paying it, they just don't want to waste it.
Yeah, if the microphone didn't hear that, older people just don't want to waste food. They grew up, like my parents, in the Depression era, and they just have a stigma against wasting anything, and so it's better to cater to that concept than to just say, no, we're not going to do it. Or as Jeff would say, I sell one size and you take it or leave it, because if I order a small one, they're all going to order small. Well, I don't subscribe to that. So you have to be careful what you say to me, because I'll turn it into a story. Now we're going to make one of Jeff's flavors. We're going to use the 12-quart machine. And I've got my sterile water over here. I'm going to make sure the gate is closed. Now, you told me when you were riding down on your motorcycles from up north that you had a ton of questions. I haven't heard any yet.
Well, actually, you sort of just answered one of them. So would you do then the smaller cone, and then just the large one and nothing in between?
No, I like, Jeff does one size because he's a very unique business. He's right next to the world's largest retirement community, and so he's just selling them one portion. He doesn't even invite kids into the store, and he's only open from 6 o'clock tonight till 10 at night. Very, very unique. So his attitudes are skewed, plus being a liberal. No, I would have all the different sizes. People will tell you, if you open up with adults of all ages, small, medium, and larger, 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops, and nobody buys the 3 scoop, take it off the menu. You know, save the effort. Also, what's become a very big business, and always has been, but now I push it even more, is selling pints to take home. Now, I know some of the people here from a restaurant trade. We had a very good friend, Warren LaRuth, out of Louisiana, and he owned LaRuth's restaurant way back in the day. Very interesting man. He started off after World War II, and that's when we met him. My father met him. And Warren worked for McCormick, and he invented shelf stabilization. When you see a product in a can sitting there on the shelf for 6 or 8 months, that's because of Warren LaRuth. He invented shelf stabilization. After he invented it, he asked them if he could have a 50-cent an hour raise, and they turned him down. So he left and went on to become a very known worldwide chef. I visited his house once in New Orleans. You had to stop halfway up his driveway to refill your gas tank. It was so big. And going out to dinner with him was a financial adventure, is the best way to put it, because Warren wanted to try everything. So when I'll have the roast beef, and Paul will have the salmon. Warren gets there, and it's I want all these appetizers. I want all these entrees. Bring over all the vegetables. He ordered everything. He didn't think twice about it. It didn't matter to him about the cost. We were paying the bill, but that wasn't the point. The point was Warren wanted to try everything to see what he could learn, what he could do new. And he used to make ice cream in his restaurant, LaRuth's restaurant in Gretna, and great ice cream. But he wouldn't let you take any home. You had to come to the restaurant if you wanted any ice cream, because that was another draw to come back. It was so good. It was New Orleans custard with egg yolks in it. But he's the only person on earth. Up in Cape Cod, one of my customers called Four Seas Ice Cream. Four Seas Ice Cream, everybody on Cape Cod's on vacation. They're usually there for a week, maybe even 2. And they're also getting together with friends they met 2 years ago, so, perfect strangers who are now their friends, and they correspond. And they're all getting back together in the second week of July, and they're going to have parties together and picnics, and the kids are going to play. So he's selling ice cream from about 11 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, single scoops and double scoops and all that. Then about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he gets an additional rush of people who are buying pints of ice cream, 5 or 6 pints, to take home for tonight, because they're having, the Millers over and the Thompsons and the Johnsons, and so they're going to have Four Seas ice cream there. So he does a huge pint business, and then after dinner, those who didn't have friends over, they go out walking around Cape Cod, and they come back for single scoops. So he's got a whole other business just doing pint containers, and not hand packing it, because that's time-consuming, very time-consuming, and it doesn't make it any better. So they're all prepackaged. You can do it out of these smaller machines and have them in the freezer. I like to tell people, see if you don't have to have a separate line just for that. But I hate to go into, I love Starbucks, but I hate to go into Starbucks because I'm ordering a black coffee, and that's it. And here's these people with their mocha latte, John knows what. And they take up so much time. I wish they had just a line. I can go up and say, give me a black coffee. So I tell ice cream parlors, just have someone keeping an eye out over where the takeout is, and have a little sign, takeout orders. So that server can run over there. I don't have to stand in line of 50 people getting ice cream cones. I just run over, I grab my 3 pints and go. And it's just a huge, huge business. I was an ugly fat kid growing up, and I used to think that the girl at Baskin-Robbins liked me. You know, nobody did, but I thought she did because she would. I'd get a hand-packed pint of ice cream just for me to eat, you know, after school. And she's packing it, and she's stuffing it, and she's stuffing it so much she can hardly get the top closed. And she's, you know, putting on a scale, what I wasn't noticing. I was looking at her. And she's just stuffing it, and she must like me. She's giving me all this extra ice cream. No, that's called a Chinese pint. And what you get at a Chinese restaurant, how they taper down like this, they won't hold a pint if you know, no matter what you do to it. They don't hold a pint of product. And so in order to be legal, they have to sell it a certain way. She had to overstuff it to be legal. But then rather than go through all that effort and break my heart that she didn't like me, it's better off to sell pints pre-packaged. So I put the sanitizer through. Did I put it through? Yeah. Okay, thank you. I get to go so wrapped up in myself I don't hear anything. Yeah.
You have ice, after you make ice cream, you put it in your tub in the freezer,
Yes.
and you also put it out on display. What do you recommend for temperatures when you're freezing it and versus when you're displaying it?
Okay, the question is, because the microphones can't always hear you, the question is if you are doing pints in that, and what are different display temperatures? Let me just get this going. Oops. First off, ice cream is scooped. When we scoop ice cream, it's roughly 6 degrees, maybe 5, maybe 7, but it's in the 6-degree range inside the cabinet. And so that's your serving temperature. If I put pints up and have them at 6 degrees, they're going to melt, or they're going to start melting before you get home. The supermarkets keep the ice cream much colder because they know you still have to drive home. I would keep the pints as cold as I can so that people know they can drive 20 minutes back to their house on the Cape without it melting. Zero's good. 10 below's better. Cold is one of the best preservatives in the world. Can it be too cold? No. You can never get ice cream too cold. There's a place called Fenton's Ice Cream in San Francisco, been around forever. And they have a lot of the movie stars going up to Lake Tahoe for the weekend. And so they have a very nice system. I use their example for a lot of things. But they have it that you can call in your credit card, you know, you're Tom Cruise, your credit card's on file. We know you like the mint chip and the guava sorbet. And so he just says, this is Tom, I want pints of this, this, and this. They run the card that they have on file. And then he just pulls up, and someone comes out, and they hand him his order in a freezer bag. And the freezer bags don't really do anything. They just give us a lot of confidence. And but it's frozen to 20 below zero, so he can drive for the next hour, and it's not going to melt. People leave here, and sometimes I give them ice cream, and a couple has come through, and I always like this trick, and I think if I was in business, I would do it. Because I'm not in business. I just play running Emery Thompson. When someone's leaving here with ice cream, and it's a couple, I always hand them a couple of spoons. I say, this is in case of an emergency. If you get stuck in traffic, there you go. And I get the honest ones call back and say, that ice cream never made it home. And that's fun. All right, so we're sanitized, rinsed out. We're ready to go. This is a 12-quart machine. This makes one 3-gallon tub at a time. Before I had the CB350, this is what we sold to high-end restaurants. This was the machine of choice. But they kept saying, we need something with less square footage. There's an expression in the restaurant business that the money is made at the tables, not at the kitchen. And what they, I never knew what it meant, but what they mean is in a good restaurant, your kitchen is this big, and there may be 70 tables out there. It's really cramped in here. But this area here isn't making any money. It's preparing the food, but it didn't make any money. The money is made by how many tables do we have out there and how fast can we turn them. So this was a hindrance at this size for many restaurants, so a lot of them have gone to this one. But this one I keep in the menu. The 2-tub machine, the 24-quart, is the exact same physical size, same doors, everything, only the barrel's smaller. So the price difference between this one and the bigger one is only $2,000. So for $2,000, you're either doubling your production or you're cutting your labor cost in half. Most people who attend my courses are starting off with this, and they're working them 15, 18 hours a day nonstop until I remind them of what Mr. Wonderful would say on Shark Tank about opportunity costs, and say, okay, now that you're making money and you're in business, how are you going to grow the business if you're stuck here 18 hours a day making ice cream? But spend your money, buy a bigger machine, and now you're freed up to go see more restaurants, hotels, country clubs.
Have you figured out what your total cost is to make 3 gallons of ice cream?
Yes, the total cost of making 3 gallons of ice cream is roughly $16 for vanilla. Maple walnut might be, which is an expensive ice cream, might be $18 or $19. However, you sell 10 times more vanilla than you do maple walnut. So you've got to factor that into your cost. So I'd say somewhere around $16, $17 for a tub of super premium ice cream. A very, very high quality. And a better quality because ice cream is subject to heat shock. It doesn't like the temperature going up and down. And so even though we put Haagen-Dazs in business, that was Reuben Madison, his mother, down the street from us in the Bronx. What am I making next? Oh, Chef's M&M. Okay, let me
You need the
see.
book.
No. If you make your own ice cream, you're not subject to the heat shock of the ice cream. Now, if you were using the large M&M, oh, let me see if these grind up. 2.5 to 3. The interesting thing about ice cream, and it's got a history to it, is all your recipes, your bags of dairy product, which you'll see, everything's based on 2.5 gallon tubs. That's the tradition of homemade ice cream. Back in the 30s, commercial businesses came along. Someone like Seal Test or Breyers or Bluebell stayed with us until they got to 200,000 gallons a year. And then the continuous freezer, which is invented, which is a long, narrow tube that goes from here to here, costs $100,000. It has a machine called a fruit feeder at the end for $40,000 that injects the strawberries. The best they can ever make is like an Italian machine, vanilla ice cream with strawberries in it. With our batch freezer, for every particle of dairy, there's going to be a particle of strawberry next to it because everything goes into the machine. But when they went to sell commercial ice cream, they went to the homemade establishments or new places going in and said, "Hey, buy our ice cream. We're going to give you another gallon for half a gallon for free. Instead of 2.5, we're going to give you 3 gallons." So commercial ice cream is usually 3 gallons. Homemade is 2.5. So when I do Italian ice, since I'm measuring my own sugar and water, I usually run this as a 12-quart or 3-gallon machine. If I'm doing ice cream using the bags of mix, I'm going to use it as a 2.5-gallon machine. But that's where the discrepancy comes in. So Jeff says to freeze these first, which I didn't get a chance to do. That worked well. I would just throw the larger M&Ms into the machine, and they'd get broken up into quarter M&Ms, and that gave me a lot of good flavor. And then Jeff comes along, and he's grinding up his M&Ms, and now they're so fine powder that they really have a lot of flavor. All my recipes have at least 2 extra cookies in it for the chef and some extra candy. All right. Now, let me go get the dairy product. I'll be right back. This is the most misunderstood product on earth. We call it mix, M-I-X. It's a horrible name. It sounds like it's a powder, but it's not. This came out of the cow yesterday. And this is, it came out of the cow and then was separated into milk and cream and skim milk, and sometimes 2% milk. And the dairy scientists take that blend that came out of the cow yesterday, and they formulate it to be certain percentages of milk fat, which we call butter fat. And nobody can tell me why, because there's no butter in ice cream. But they call it butter fat. And the federal government says, if you want to call this stuff ice cream, it must be 10% butter fat, minimum. Haagen-Dazs is 16. Up in Virginia, there's some 17%. There's McConnell's in California and Santa Barbara, I think, runs an 18%. But for the most part, 16 is the highest that you can go. Well, 10 to 16 or 10 to 12 or 10 to 14 doesn't really sound like much difference. But think about it like this. You know what whole milk tastes like that you drink with your Cheerios. You know that low-fat milk, which is a totally different taste, whole milk versus low-fat. What's the difference between whole milk and low-fat? 2%. Low-fat is 2% fat, whole milk is 4%. So when we go from 10 to 14, we're making a dramatic change in the fat content. Let me measure this out because it gets even more strange.
Hey, we're from South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And we buy that at U.S. Foods.
You could buy this through U.S. Foods. You could buy it through Cisco, but you're probably going to find in your town a local dairy or a couple of them, or within 50 miles, who are making this because there are so many customers, so many homemade ice cream parlors.
So you think a local dairy would sell a mix?
There's going to be a local dairy somewhere near you. I know that there's one out of Pennsylvania that covers all the Carolinas. They cover a wide range. This one came out of St. Petersburg, a company called Dairy Mix.
What's the butter fat on biscuits?
I'm sorry?
What's the butter fat? How many percent?
This is 10%. And as soon as I get this going, I'm going to explain why it's so low, because it's surprising. Now, let's see. This is a 10-quart machine. I want 5 quarts of mix. Yeah, well, they do. It's already been done. It's a wire basket. You put the thing in, and you can pour it like that. Sorry. So this is my blend. And I always love to argue with the Italians. I went over to Italy on a tour, on a gelato tour, and I'm a diabetic, so I'm not supposed to eat any of this stuff. So I stand up in the bus on Malcolm Stogo's tour and say, we make better gelato in America than the Italians ever could. Well, you thought I was, committing heresy. I mean, how could you say that, and you don't know anything, you don't eat ice cream? I say it's real simple. The Italians they have beef cattle, but they don't have dairy cattle. The dairy cattle are on the Pampas in Argentina, where there's a large Italian population. So when the Italians make gelato, they milk the cows on the Pampas in Argentina. They put it through a machine that was made by a friend of mine growing up, his father, Henningsen Foods. It's called a spray dryer. And it's a series of screens. And you can take a liquid and ram it through this series of screens and turn any liquid into a powder. And so they turn it into a powder. They ship it to Bologna, Italy, where Fabry and Pre-Gel then put it up in very pretty packages. And this package says, mix with water. You're reconstituting it with water. Do I have any powdered? When we have a hurricane here in Florida, we always go out and buy a box of Carnation non-fat dried milk. Just in case there's a hurricane and we're not going to get milk for our coffee, we can always make the powdered stuff. So they're taking this stuff that has traveled further than I have in my lifetime, and it's gone through the port of Elizabeth, New Jersey, and then it's come out to your place. And you have to remix it with water and then pour it into the machine. Now you compare just that tour guide to this coming out of the cow yesterday and being delivered here today refrigerated. So that's why we make better gelato, right? Without even tasting your gelato. I know ours is better because the product is fresh. So let me get this going. And there's nothing wrong with Fabry and Pre-Gel. They're both great. Yes?
I'm in Tampa, and I was looking for local dairy at first, and I found like Dakin, Sunny, something. Which one was that?
For some reason, when you Google, it's a little harder than you think to find dairies. There's a company in St. Petersburg that handles this area called Dairy Mix Incorporated in St. Pete.
I think
Yeah, that's two twin brothers, and they're good friends of mine. Nice stuff. They're very good. There's also over on the other side of the state, Ice Cream Club. Rich Draper and his wife are the president. Great people. And they also service the South and the Caribbean with ice cream mix. So two sources just right here in Florida. Yes?
You know a place, South Georgia, what's in South Georgia?
Yeah, in South Georgia you have Greenwood Industries out of Chamblee makes a wonderful mix. They have some 70-year-old Emery Thompsons that, to my chagrin, just keep running day in and day out.
What percent are you running today?
Well, that's the key here. Let me get this going, and then I want to talk about it because you'll be surprised. Let's see. I'm making 10 quarts of ice cream, so I want 5 quarts. Yeah, okay. Anybody bored yet? No. Oh, okay, good.
When you call that a mix, what else do they have? I mean, it's just raw milk?
It's milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. The secret ingredient, if you made just all cream, it would be so heavy and so greasy that it would just sit like lead in your stomach. The secret ingredient is skim milk. Skim milk, the technical term for it is milk solids, not fat. And what that means is skim milk has all the good stuff of heavy cream, but most of the fat has been removed, usually down to 1%. So it's got all the great things that make it cream, but without the fat. So we can up the fat level without having to up the greasiness. That's the problem with most homemade recipes is they don't have skim milk in them, skim milk powder, and they're just very heavy. A curse to a business. If you own a pizza pie, I'll get to it. If you own an Italian restaurant and you've just served a 5-course meal of different pastas and salads and bread and everything else, and then you finish off that meal with a really heavy ice cream, people are going to leave there with a stomach ache or feeling very full. And they're not going to say, because we're just too proud to do it, we're not going to say, I ate too much. They're going to say, Giovanni's Ristorante made me feel ill, ergo, I'm not going back to Giovanni's. You got to leave them refreshed. That's why sorbets are so nice, because it isn't going to fill you up and it cleanses you. Let me just get this set up. I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla. Did we pass out the recipe? You want to just...
There isn't a recipe for this.
Oh, there isn't. That's right, because it's Jeff's. Sorry. We'll put it up on the internet. Just a little splash of vanilla. There's...
12-quart machine, did you have to make it the full 12 quarts, or could you take it run half a batch? Or?
Yeah, you can make a half a batch, and remind me, I'll get into that in a minute. I don't want to waste your time, so let me get this going. So let me just turn that on. I'm going to do super premium, a little less air. Turn on the refrigeration, and now I'm just going to the beauty here is for every particle of dairy, there's a particle of M&M right next to it. So it's going to have an incredible taste. You'll really like this one. This is one of my favorites. Don't tell Jeff. I'm going to add some M&Ms as it comes out. I invented 2 terms, fruit flavor and fruit identity. Let's say I'm making strawberry ice cream. I will put, and my recipe calls for 2 quarts of strawberries. I'll put 1 quart of strawberries into the machine. It's going to grind them up like a Cuisinart. And if you were blindfolded and you taste it, you'd say, yeah, that's strawberry ice cream. But you take the blindfold off and you look at it, and you don't see any chunks of strawberries. So I take my 2nd quart of strawberries. I've got all my flavor in the machine. But as it comes out, I'll shake in some pieces of strawberry. Now, the mix that I'm using, the butterfat content, this is fascinating, at least to me. Up in New York, if you're running 14% butterfat in your ice cream parlor, I'm going to run 16% just so I can say I'm the richest damn ice cream in New York. There really is no other reason to do it. I mean, 14 to 16, you're getting up so high, hardly makes a difference. And so that attitude comes down from New York, and people are going to open up an ice cream parlor. And there are not a lot of ice cream parlors in Florida compared to, say, New England or California. I mean, we own California. You name it, it's Emery Thompson. But that's true everywhere. And they fail when they come down with the New York attitude, high fat, you know. And why do they fail? Because if you eat a high fat ice cream and go out into that parking lot when it's 95 degrees and 100% humidity, you're going to drop dead. And people drop dead in your parking lot is bad for business. But in fact, it'll give you a stomach ache. It'll make you sweat from the high fat content. So I take a page from Baskin-Robbins. Baskin-Robbins for a commercial ice cream is not really awful. It is only 10% fat, but they make up for it with a lot of extra flavor. Nobody ever walked out of an ice cream parlor and said, oh man, that's the best fat content I ever ate. Or they don't walk out and say, I can't wait to come back tomorrow, I love their air content. They say, that mint chip was really minty. It didn't have a chalky taste. And that's what people eat, flavor. They don't eat fat, they don't eat air, they eat flavor. So that's what we're going for, is getting a great flavor. Do you have a question?
When you mix the vanilla essence in your mix, do you recommend that if I mix in the ice cream mix itself, would you recommend?
Some of the mixes come with vanilla in them, especially in the lower fat. The higher fat,
Let's say I have some other, like strawberry, if I want to add some extra flavor, like lemon extract or strawberry extract, would you recommend to mix in the ice cream mix?
yes, right in the machine.
Not in here, if I want to.
No, put it in the machine, let the machine mix it. I like to put vanilla in almost anything because it enhances the flavor. The only time I don't do vanilla is when it's not going to be, there's a predominant flavor. Chocolate chip is predominantly chocolate. You're never going to taste vanilla. Strawberry is strawberry. It should not be vanilla. But if I'm making a cookie ice cream, I like to add some vanilla. If I'm making a candy ice cream, I like some vanilla. There was a place in Brooklyn that I always found interesting. It was, all it was a lady who was having her product repackaged, but she made a good product called Sharon Sorbet. And her secret ingredient, though it's not told by anybody, and so if you have a secret, don't tell me. She was adding coconut and vanilla to all her flavors. Even if it was mint chip, there was some coconut and some vanilla in there because both those two items enhance the flavor. Coconut is extremely popular right now. That's why I started off. Now, ice cream is technically low in fat and low in sugar and high in fat. So it freezes faster than the Italian ice does, usually half the time. So I need to keep an eye on this. In the small machines, they're all air-cooled. The bigger ones come water or air, depending on your location. If you were on a septic tank, or if you were in the Mojave Desert, you would buy an air-cooled machine. Excuse me? 90% of my machines going out are water-cooled, of the bigger ones. And surprisingly here, and I had this argument with a nice couple from the state of Washington recently. They said, well, you know, out here, we are much more environmentally correct than you people. Give me a break. They just ordered a machine, so hey, flag that tape, we got to cut that out. But anyway, they were telling me how environmentally correct they wanted, so they wanted an air-cooled machine. I said, that's interesting, because here in Florida, we buy water-cooled machines, and water often is scarce in Florida. The reason we buy water-cooled is an air-cooled machine of this size has got to cool the compressor by passing air across it. It's going to throw a lot of hot air into this room. I then have to go over and turn on the air conditioning colder to get rid of the heat, or you're going to be very uncomfortable. Water is expensive, but the prices goes up very slowly, pennies a year. Air conditioning, which is fossil fuel, goes up every time there's another war in the Middle East. So we need the lowest priced way to run a piece of machinery, and that's water cooled. It uses very little water. No change in voltage. Let me get a container. Excuse me? This is water cooled. This is how noisy it is. The air cooled will be just about the same. It's got a fan motor. Excuse me. This is almost ready. Watch how I open and close it, and it cuts off like a knife went through it. I'm going to shut that down. You had a question?
You make those cans here, can you make them after?
The cans?
Stands.
Oh, the stands, yes. Yeah. Yeah, the stand is $453. Now, I don't make ice cream all day long, so I'm not the greatest at this, but instead of, I thought I heard Sadie, instead of dumping the ice cream out in 30 seconds, I'm going to open it part way, and I'm going to shake in my pieces. And it's mainly for looks.
What difference does it make on freezing the M&Ms?
Sounds like Hillary Clinton. What difference does it make? I'm sorry, yes?
What difference does it make on freezing the M&Ms?
They don't. I wondered that too until I did it. They don't gum up in the blender if you freeze them first. That's what I figured out. He didn't tell me that, but that's what I think it was the intent. Again, I like a lot of flavor. If I hand you a pale pink ice cream and you say, that's delicious, what is it? I've just failed as an ice cream maker because you can't tell it's red raspberry as opposed to strawberry. On the other hand, consumers are much more savvy than we were growing up. You know, we'd eat anything. We took the you've got to eat a pound of dirt in your lifetime to heart. And so we weren't worried about things. But now you get your audience is a young married woman pushing a stroller, and she walks into the ice cream parlor. She sees bright red ice cream. She knows darn well that's red dye 40 or yellow 17, and she's not going to buy it. So the whole trend is towards very natural and very fresh.
Why didn't you put the M&Ms while you were
It would have broken them up a little bit, but it wouldn't break them up as much as putting them into the blender. So when you taste this, you're going to go, wow, this has got a lot of nice flavor. So
You have to rinse out your machine, switch back in.
I don't have to rinse out the machine depending on what I'm making. If I start with vanilla and then go to strawberry and then go from strawberry to red raspberry, there'll be it's called overlap. There'll be very little left in the machine, about a cup at most. So if a cup of strawberry gets into 5 gallons of red raspberry, you'll never see it. And then you make Bordeaux cherry, then you make black raspberry, then you make pistachio nut salad, then you rinse the machine. If I go from chocolate to vanilla, I'm going to put 2 rinses through it, 2 warm rinses or 2 hot rinses. Might take me all of 3 minutes, and I'm good to go. So let me get I got my spoons, and let me get some more of these, and I want you to come up and try this. And then we'll take a coffee break. So you can have some ice cream and then walk around for a bit, relax.
I noticed, Steve, you didn't measure that one stuff you put in there, that liquid.
Yeah,
Is that a really big deal?
I don't measure very well. I just got to tell you this one real quick. The man asked about measuring. I was in a nice restaurant once, and I asked the chef about measuring. And so he's got this container, and he's measuring out 2 pounds of sugar, and it was all showmanship. He goes like this, and he looks at it, takes out a little bit, and puts it back in the container. Perfect. It was so impressive. I believed that he knew what he was doing, but he was grandstanding, and I loved it. And so, yeah, no, I don't measure a lot. I have a good idea of what 2 ounces is.
Thank you.
Steve, are you going to talk to me today about your pasteurizing machine you have on your
I can if you want. Just
like some more info on it?
yeah. Here we go. And you're free to get up and walk around, use the bathrooms, get some coffee or some soda, and we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes. That'll give me some time to clean up.
You primarily use a mix all the time when you're making ice cream. You're not mixing cream. It works easier just getting the mix. Right?
That's right. And right after the break, if you remind me about pasteurizing, I'll tell you why. Because it's you're in the ice cream business. You don't want to go into becoming a dairy.
How about up in Michigan area? Any places to buy a good?
Oh, fabulous places. The UP of Michigan is loaded with ice cream parlors, as is the rest of the state. How's this? Good, good flavor?
That's a peck of dirt. My grandmother used to say, you have to eat a peck of dirt.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I knew it was something like that.
Is this machine runs on 2-phase or 3-phase?
Single phase or 3-phase. We build them both ways. Depends on the country it's going to. Okay. You're going to have some? Okay, good. Some more? Or you didn't get any?
Not that much. That's yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I made a real mess of that. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Okay, let me give this to the office and they'll recontainer it. I am running high air content because the low air contents are going to sit like lead in your stomach. Everybody comes in here not knowing about ice cream, and the first thing they say is, well, if they have 16% fat in New York, I want 35%. And if Haagen-Dazs is 40% overrun, I want 0% overrun. Like I said, nobody eats overrun, nobody eats fat. When the product first comes out, it is coming out softer. It'll, if you wait it though, ice cream when it first comes out of the machine tastes like. Oh, Steve should have added more vanilla to the vanilla ice cream. The ice cream blooms over 8 hours in the freezer. Italian ice, what you put in is what you get out. So the ice cream changes, but I am running at a high air content ice cream because that's what is the most popular. People buy my Infinite Overrun to do very low air contents, and then they find out that they can't afford it. Because if your yield is 1 gallon in and 2 gallons of ice cream back, you can price your product at, say, $3 or $3.25 a scoop. If your yield is 1 gallon in and 1.25 gallons back, your cost just went through the roof. You're now up around $6, and can you really afford that? So the machine, the Infinite Overrun, will vary it to whatever we want. I'm choosing to run high air contents on these.
Can you make it lighter yet?
Oh, yes. Yeah. The federal government says that you can go as high as 100% overrun. If you're not familiar with overrun, think of it as proof in alcohol. If you have 100 proof rum, it's 50% alcohol and 50% other stuff. If we do ice cream, if I have 100 proof, we'll use their term, if I have 100 proof ice cream, it's half dairy and half air. My father was once called down to a Senate subcommittee meeting by some Southern senator who said that the ice cream industry was cheating the public because they're putting air in the product. Well, without air, you wouldn't have ice cream. It is a component of ice cream. So the air is where your profit is, but it's in balance. As I go up with the air, I usually go up with the fat in most places in the country. But if I was going to do a gelato, if I did a 16% butterfat gelato and did it at, say, 30% overrun, it's going to sit like lead in your stomach. Example, Haagen-Dazs ice cream. We all buy Haagen-Dazs, we take it home, and as soon as we get it home, we open the container and take a bite of it. And then at dinner, we have a small portion of Haagen-Dazs. And then if you're like me at 11 o'clock at night, you cheat and you have another little taste of Haagen-Dazs before you go to bed. We pick at Haagen-Dazs. The reason you don't see Haagen-Dazs ice cream parlors is the stuff is so heavy that a 4-ounce portion is much tighter. It's very tight, very tiny, falls to about the bottom third of the cone, 4 ounces. And so the public feels cheated. Oh, look how little ice cream I got. I go down the street to Steve's Homemade Ice Cream, and it's falling off the cone. I want the customer to feel refreshed, that there was a great flavor. The flavor was the key component. And they feel refreshed after eating to the point where, oh, I think I'll have another one. But nobody, with rare exceptions, sits down and eats a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I mean, it'll kill you. Yes?
What's the maximum amount of time you'd let go by before you would rinse out that B350?
You could probably go an hour and a half, 2 hours, because the barrel is so heavily refrigerated. That water that just came out was barely above freezing.
Go an hour and a half, 2 hours even before you.
But I wouldn't get into that practice. See, I'm running 2 machines and I'm talking to a crowd. If I'm really making ice cream, I'm here working for the next 2.5 hours constantly, and then I'm finished. I wouldn't be taking long breaks like that.
Can you work on making ice cream continuously on the same machine, or you have some?
You don't need any break whatsoever. You keep running the machine, batch after batch after batch.
How long?
24 hours. Oh, yes, because that's the way Emery Thompson builds them. These are not toys. The only difference between my small one, 3 quarts, and my 11-gallon machine is the price and the capacity. They're all using, I can't lift it, it weighs too much, but during a break, if you come up here, you'll see all the different dashers or beaters. Dasher is the old-fashioned term for a beater. They're all there for all the different size machines, and they're all identical. No, we're not Italian. We build machines to last forever. I had one guy, I loved it the other day. He wrote me and he said, well, I was talking to the Cappigiani dealer, and he said, yeah, Emery Thompson's nice, but the Cappigianis are like Ferraris. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. The Cappigianis are like Ferraris. That you can't afford them. You need a full-time mechanic to keep it running, and you can't get parts. That's the truth. Well, enough of beating up the competition. Because I don't have to, because we outsell all of them. We're going to make the banana blueberry sorbet, and I'm going to start with 1.5 quarts of water. This is Paula, my wife and office manager, and this is Connie, our accountant, yes, and Sadie, of course. So now you've met a good part of the team. Yes. That's all right.
After 8 hours, you say, or it comes from flavor?
Oh, yeah. The flavor blooms.
So what we just tasted in 8 hours will be
even stronger.
Stronger. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's not true of water ice products or sorbets. They stay the same. Whatever you put in. That's why I was able to taste the coconut and say, okay, that's great. Because I was playing with the recipe. I added more stuff. I didn't like the recipe. I didn't have to change this recipe because I knew it was good, and I knew I wouldn't get the real taste of it anyway. But it'll feel heavier, better mouthfeel, and the flavor will bloom or burst.
Steve, is that just a regular freezer over there? They just put that in?
That's just a Sears chest freezer for $500. And
now, would the ice cream taste better if you got the hardening cabinet, put the ice cream in that versus that chest freezer? Or can you get by with just that chest freezer like that?
Well, I'll have to go off camera, but let me just show you. This thing was designed, this Sears chest freezer or Home Depot or wherever you want to buy it, costs $550 because it's got the digital control. It's designed for you to buy frozen pizzas and frozen green beans and bring them home and put them in the freezer. They're already frozen, so this doesn't have to do any work. It's just going to hold them. So here's some fruit, two different fruit sorbets that I made, 2 cantaloupes that I made a week or so ago. Hard as a rock. It's been sitting in there hard as a rock. So if I put some fresh ice cream in there that they just did, this is acting like blocks of ice. It's not going to affect the cabinet. That warm ice cream we just put in is now going to start to raise the temperature. So if I put in a batch here and a batch there over 8 hours, it will pull it down to 0 or 5 below. If I load it up, if I make ice cream for 3 hours and put it all in there, that cabinet's going up to 40 degrees, and all your ice cream's ruined. So when Jeff tells you you don't need a hardening cabinet to start off a small business because everybody is tight for money, and I want you to be making money before you spend any more money. So if you're using this size machine and 1 or 2 chest freezers, that's great. Where Jeff's thinking is flawed, and he won't admit it, is he's now up to 15 or 11 or 15 of those chest freezers. Just because he's making so much ice cream, he's got to move them around. So his electric bill, they're running on 115 volt. I mean, his electric meter looks like a Sikorsky helicopter taking off. I mean, it's terrible. If he had a flash freezer, something that was designed, a flash freezer, hardening cabinet, blast freezer, same thing. They're set at 30 below 0, and they're designed to pull the heat out of the product, out of the ice cream. Literally pull it out. I don't care how much ice cream you put in there, it's going to pull the heat out. So eventually you're going to get there. Eventually Jeff's going to break down and buy a hardening cabinet because he's running out of electric plugs, and Florida Power and Light is looking at him like he must be growing marijuana or something with all the power usage. He may be doing that too. He's not here. Flag the tape. That gets me in trouble.
So you really want a hardening cabinet?
Eventually.
So trying to do that?
Yes, but not today. You can get into business with that. Now, with ices, you don't have to harden them at all. You just put them in the freezer because we serve it at 16 degrees, and we don't have to worry about heat shock, so chest freezers do just fine. I've had customers with 20 or 30 of those in their garage. Yes, back there.
And then how long do you actually keep your ice, until you say, okay, I'm going to dump it out?
The colder I can get it, the longer I can keep it. But the better answer was a lady from Newark, New Jersey, who called up last September, and she had a tub of bubblegum licorice ice cream in her hardening cabinet, 30 below 0. Been in there for 9 months. And she said, is this as good? Is this ice cream any good? I said, ma'am, it's as good as the day you made it because it's at 30 below 0. But if it's sitting as inventory in your hardening cabinet for 9 months, throw it out. Nobody likes bubblegum licorice ice cream. It's a lousy flavor. Come on. If you can't turn over your... Hey, I'm just as guilty. I like coffee banana ice cream. And I make it for myself because nobody else will eat it. They say that the bananas are fighting with the coffee for world dominance. It just doesn't work. So, sir, you have to admit at some point that you're in love with your flavor, but nobody else is.
What does old ice cream get to taste like? I mean, does it get gritty? Or?
It actually gets dried out and craggy. I'll show you some old Italian ice. It looks horrible.
So if you can freeze it faster, you're better off.
The faster,
That's the moral of the story.
the faster, the better. And these hardening cabinets, if it's a vertical hardening cabinet like a big refrigerator, they're at 30 or 40 below 0 because every time you open the doors, like you do when you're 11 o'clock at night and you're hoping that there's a turkey and a ham in the refrigerator, and there never is. You stand there and you're staring at it and you're looking for which flavor do I want. All the cold is falling out. Or you're loading these 4 tubs in and the cold is all falling out, so the cabinet has to chill down very quickly to make up for you. And you're also packing them this tight together, so it has to go super cold to do the job. If I had, Emery Thompson has made hardening cabinets in the past. There's one right behind you for the United States Marines. We make them about every 25 years to replace them, even though they don't need replacing. Those go to 20 below 0 because just like this chest freezer right now, I left the lid open. Cold air is heavier than warm air, so it's just sitting there, and it's not falling out like the vertical cabinet. Now, if you have a walk-in freezer, which is when you get bigger, and that's at, say, 10 below or 15 below, 2 things are happening. One, you're putting on your winter coat and your hat, and you're carrying the ice cream in, so you're closing the door behind you, the cold staying in the walk-in room. The walk-in room is huge, so you have all this shelf space. So we've got a tub here, and we've got a tub over here. So we've got a little airspace between them. And the blowers are going like crazy. So you've got all this air circulation, you've got space between the tubs, you close the door behind you, they can work at a warmer temperature and do the same hardening job. So there is no one hard, fast hardening temperature rule. Let me just shut this. Oh, I got it, thanks.
If you have a big walk-in freezer, you could typically cool down more ice cream.
Oh, yeah. A walk-in is, you're golden when you've got a walk-in because you can expand your business all you want. You can run this thing 18, 20, 24 hours a day, but once you fill up your freezer space, you can't make any more ice cream because you have no place to put it. So when you call me up in 10 years and say, I need another batch freezer, business is going through the roof and I'm running it 4 hours every other day or 5 hours every other day, well, why don't you run it every day and make ice cream, double your production? Because I have no place to put the ice cream. Well, you don't need a batch freezer, another one from me. You need another hardening cabinet. Here is old and craggy Italian ice. This is old, and you can see it's starting to fall apart. It's still pretty good. This is an all-chemical Italian ice. I made this to show people my rainbow divider that I sell. And it's what we do is we put this into the tub, and then we make one flavor, then the next, pull this out, and now we've got all 3 flavors. And if you want to scoop this, you just take in a semicircular motion, you hit all 3 flavors. There's a couple of videos at my website that'll show you how to do this. This is cold.
Ice cream's so hot, we can't even get into it for like an hour. So it thaws out a little bit.
Just warm your cabinet up.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Our freezer just freezes things like
Just get a different thermostat put on it. That'll cure it. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just doing what you tell it to do. Here's a pretty gelato I made. That's a, actually I didn't make this, actually. This is made by Rocco Giovanelli. He comes down here and does separate courses that he teaches people how to make gelato. That's a real nice one. You know, gelato, when it first came to the United States, over in Italy, it's about a 7% fat product. When it first came to the United States, it hit San Francisco first, and it was 16% butterfat, because that's what they had. So there is no definitive term for gelato. I've changed the gelato business radically because there's not a lot of gelaterias in the United States. You don't have a 5-year-old tugging on his mother's dress saying, Mommy, could I please have a tiramisu? Or could I have a hazelnut? Or I'd really love a fruit of Tabasco. You know, they want Superman. They want mint chip. They want Cookie Monster. And you have to cater to, I mean, you may love it, but you got to cater to most people. If I was doing an ice cream parlor, I would do mostly ice cream, some ices, and a little bit of gelato. Something for everybody. Let me get this going, and then I can talk more.
If you mix it too long.
Just like keeping that steak in the oven. If you keep that steak in the oven for 30 minutes, what do you got? You got an overdone steak. So it's that simple. Huh? Yeah, you'll lock up the machine because you're telling it just to keep getting colder and colder and colder. And if I put that automatic control to shut it off, it'll shut off when vanilla's ready and nothing else is. That's the later one.
The banana one, I think you have over there.
Yeah. Have I passed that out?
I'm pretty sure. Yep.
Everybody got the banana blueberry? Who doesn't have it?
We got it, thank you.
You got it? Okay. All right, let's play with this one. So I've got my water somewhere. I did. All right, I got talking so much I got to start over. All right, that's empty. Those are the same size. Okay. 1.5 quarts of water, 1 1/4 pounds of sugar. So let me work on the sugar over here. Oh, good question. Poor Jeff. He's not here to defend himself. I always tell people sugar is sugar is sugar. Buy the cheapest sugar you can find. The only difference between this stuff from our supermarkets here in Florida called Publix, this is a Publix brand, and the only difference between this and Domino is the price and the packaging. They're the same sugar out of the same place. Well, Jeff went into a fit over that. He says, yeah, but this clumps up and this one doesn't. So I opened this one up and there were these big, huge clumps in it. And it's just a matter of moisture. And I said, Jeff, it's so hard if it's clumped that you can't go like this, to break it up, to save a buck. What really gets me, though, is, all right, how much sugar is in this package? Who knows?
4 pounds.
Oh, you're so smart. Yes. It used to be a 5-pound bag. It's now 4 pounds. It's screwed up all my formulas. 4 pounds. Oh, I know. It's like, no. It's like Starbucks with their pound of coffee. It's 12.5 ounces. 1.5 quarts of water, 1 1/4 pounds of sugar. All right, let me get working here. Let's see, 16. So I want 1.4.
What's the worst thing that goofy your recipe up? Either a little less sugar or too much?
Talking to people and not paying attention. Yeah, what's it to you?
I wanted to ask you, Steve, that guy, the senator your dad talked to, he had to have been a liberal, right?
Of course. Okay, we've got the sugar and the water. Everything else just goes in the machine. Great. All right, who wants to come up and help? You wanted to come up. Come on up. Okay, make sure the gate's closed. And I found that if you rest this on the lid, it's going to spill everywhere. Try to put it up above.
Like this?
And before you do that, I'll make you feel bad. I only have one working eye, and I don't spill, so good luck. It's not that hard. Okay, so that's the sugar and the water. Anybody see a lemon? Yes, here we go. Can you cut that up for me?
Of course.
I was going to let this gentleman do it. There you go. Just cut that into some slices for me. The whole thing goes in. Okay. Yeah. Now put the lid on. Right there.
Here?
Yep. Now over here where it says begin, hit begin.
Okay.
And we're going to make Italian ice again. So hit Italian ice.
Okay.
And then hit start.
Okay.
Okay. Now turn on the refrigeration switch. Now you're making Italian ice.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then add a little lemon. Wasn't that great? Now, the fun part. This is a great looking banana for eating, and this one not so nice. This one makes better ice cream because it's got the sugar content of it, the fructose content, is much higher than this. The older and worse looking they get, the better they are. I thought I was so smart because I went into the greengrocer and I said, you know what, you can't sell those brown bananas, and especially when they get black, so I'll buy them from you for half price. And I thought that was pretty cool. Well, Gary the curmudgeon up in Massachusetts said, Steve, you're a rookie. I walk in and say, hey, greengrocer, those black bananas, you're going to have to throw them out. They're going to take up space in your garbage bin, and you're going to have to pay to remove them. I'll take them off your hands for free. Now with the bigger machine, this one, you can just drop whole bananas in, which is a lot of fun. But you're going to get a great flavor by being able to, put bananas, right into the mix. Banana what? I'm doing it mainly for flavor. Your consistency is coming from the sugar. I do this at Penn State when I teach because it drives the competition absolutely batty because they can't do anything like this. They can't put anything in their machines. Their freezing cylinders are so thin, they're nothing more than spaghetti pots, that you'll damage the freezing cylinder. Our freezing times are 6 times thicker, and so anything can go into the machine. Our dashers are stronger, our drive motors are better. This is an all-American machine with a couple of exceptions. It has the drive system, which is a transmission and a motor, is made for us in Germany. And the keypad is Panasonic, but made in the USA. Everything else here is made in the USA.
The recipe says 4 bananas.
Oh, 4 pounds.
4 pounds?
Yeah. And there's blueberries in there too, isn't it? I have to go get the blueberries. I'll be right back. Now, every time I add something in here, I'm adding more fructose. I'm adding more sugar. So the freezing time is going to get a little bit longer. Well, bananas are sweet. Blueberries are sweet. It's like you're adding more sugar to the formula. So the more sugar, the longer the freezing time. And so that's why I don't want this machine shutting off at 8 minutes, because it won't be ready. This may take about 16, 17 minutes. Oh, I don't know. I guess it depends on the size. Oh no, the second I turned on that refrigeration, the timing started. People were asking about making your own mix and pasteurizing. if you wanted to make your own mix, and maybe 1 in 1,000 of my customers makes their own mix, first thing you have to understand is you are now no longer an ice cream parlor, you are a dairy, and the health department treats you as such. If you want to, it's the dumbest law on earth, and there's a reason for it, or there's an explanation for it. You would think you could go out to the supermarket and buy milk and cream and skim milk. They've been pasteurized, they've been homogenized, they've been put up in containers. You ought to be able to put it into this machine and make ice cream. The federal government won't let you. They say that if you blend those already pasteurized good ingredients together and put it into a machine, you have to repasteurize them first. The exception is restaurants. They look the other way because they say restaurants know what they're doing, therefore we will trust them with it. But if you're going to be an ice cream parlor, you have to buy the ingredients, which you're paying top dollar for. You're buying cream in little containers like this, and you need 10, 15 gallons of it. You're going to pay a fortune. So first off, your cost is going to be almost double what it would be if you were to buy your dairy blend. But the reason it came around, some of you who are older like me will have seen a little tin-type video of an old Ford Model A truck, and the farmer has got the 5 or 10-gallon stainless steel pails, and they're dumping the milk on the side of the road. And we never knew what they meant. They just said, oh, it was the Great Depression, and you see these guys dumping milk. What does that mean? What it means is you can't tell a cow to stop producing milk. So the farmer had to milk his cows every day, but the price of milk was so low that the video is showing they couldn't afford to drive it into the town to sell it because the cost of driving it there and selling it was higher than what they could get for it. So the federal government in 1930 stepped in, and the Food and Drug Administration got its first, teeth in which they regulated the price of milk. And so anywhere you go in the United States, the price of milk is pretty well set. Yes, you'll see different prices because that's taxes added onto it. But there's a price ceiling always on how much you have to pay for a gallon of milk anywhere in the United States. They've taken that law, and who knows who did it, probably that Southern Democrat, but for some reason they have made it so that you have to take pasteurized products and repasteurize it. What a pain in the neck, and especially getting the ingredients, because the dairies don't want to give up 10 gallons of cream. They can turn that into 60 gallons of dairy mix. They can put it into little containers and sell it to you for $4 a container. It's not profitable to sell it to you. That all said, there's the exception to every rule. So we've got Ample Hills in Brooklyn who makes his own mix and does a fantastic job. But his costs are high, and his setup cost was high. Now he's a dairy, and we all do not, health department gets involved. And if you think they're involved visiting your ice cream parlor once a month, wait till you become a dairy. They're in there every 2 weeks, and they want to see recording timers and barometers, everything else associated with a dairy. Special floors, special walls. This room is classified. I'm a wholesale location here just because I wanted to see what would be involved to do it. This wouldn't pass in New York. They'd say, no, that's got to be a single flat tile floor. You can't have just that it's a washable floor. Let me check this. This is ready. Turn off the refrigeration. And let me see. Well, let's put it in one of those nice sorbet gelato containers. Now, you asked about consistency. There's a firmer consistency. Yeah, it is. Anybody got a selfie stick?
Do you have an idea? I know every area is different, you said.
Hi, sweetie.
Do you have kind of a figure that you use for price? I know Jeff does 5 and he can get 5 or whatever, but I mean, do you have like a ballpark
Oh, sure. Slightly higher than the competition in town. Because how are you, if you're too high, you're not going to sell it. How are you going to prove you're better if you don't cost more? I mean, the Cadillac and the Chevy Impala come off the same production line, just different chrome and different interiors. It's the same car. It costs $15,000, $20,000 more. How are you going to know it's a Cadillac if you don't pay $20,000 more for it than a Chevy? And that's really, I mean, sometimes pricing boils down to that. You can do all the mathematics in the world, but it comes down to what's the competition getting. If the going rate for a steak in a high-end restaurant is $32, you're not going to be $47.
So let's say the one 50 miles away is, or 25 miles away is $3. So when you say slightly more, would you say 3 1/4?
$3.50.
$3.50.
Yeah, I can always come down, but I can't go up as easily.
Right.
People have long memories. Well, I remember in '06 that you were only getting 5 cents for it. You know, sorry. So, I have not tasted this, but it looked good on paper. So let's see what we got. Hi, sweetie. Let's move this over because Sadie's not going to move. She has started this new thing. In 13 years, she has barked once, and that was at my brother-in-law, who has an office here, once. And now she has caught on because she was sick and because we were pampering to her more than we ever do. She has caught on that all she has to do is go up to someone and bark at them, and she won't stop until you give her a cookie. So she stands out in front of Bill's office because he's got cookies, and she barks at his office. She comes up to us in the middle of the night because she woke up and she goes, bark, bark, you know. And it's just, she can get away with it. I'm looking for a spatula. Here, I'll use this. Okay. We're going to need more spoons. I think this should be pretty interesting. No, she had some. Yes, yeah. 6 quarts or 6 liters. The barrel is actually bigger than 6 quarts, but we advertise it at 6. And that's another thing that drives me nuts. Everybody else advertises their barrel, their capacity, they call it, by if you took the barrel and stood it on end and filled it with water without the dasher in it, how much water would it hold? And then they call it a 6-quart machine. It'll never make 6 quarts. It'll only make 3 because you don't fill the barrel up and you don't have the dasher in it. We rate every machine by finished capacity, how much actually comes out. Hi. At the store? No, I'm great. We'll be ready for lunch when you get back. Thank you. Come on up. There you go.
That's plenty. That's plenty, Steve. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
A little more?
More this year, no, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, now you wake up. Oh, no. We're moving the nose.
Steve, did you time that at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So you kind of just have gotten a feel for how long?
I'd say it was about 16 minutes. We usually do ices in about 12 or 13.
Yeah, just, I just wondered, so that's when you say stay there, you need to be testing it, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, but you write down what you made. Don't be like me. Write down what you made on a file card. Every time you make a different test batch, write it down because one day you're going to hit the great batch and you're going to say, uh-oh, what did I do? And it drives you nuts. The other thing is there's a group of people out there that can help you expand your business dramatically, and that is off-duty policemen and firemen. They are policemen and firemen. They're not in the ice cream business, and not unless until they do their 20 and out. and they're not going to steal your formulas. They could care less. They all have off-duty jobs, and who better to come in at 2 in the morning and make your product while you're asleep, and you just give them a formula and they know to stick with it. Almost everyone here working is, I have no military background at all, but almost everyone here has an armed forces background. And it's just the most wonderful workforce I've ever had because they are used to coming to work and getting a job done. Whereas in the Bronx, everybody was like, I can work until 1 and then Oprah comes on and I got to go see her. How is this? Is this good?
Hey, Steve, this is a question from a guy that doesn't know much about ice cream, but what's the difference between the Italian ice and the sorbet? What makes one Italian ice and one sorbet?
Excellent question. Yeah, I can barely hear you, Jack. Yeah, that's good.
The people in Texas want to know if it's possible to ship ice cream across the country.
Tell them to just buy a machine. No, yes, you can ship. No, I told you, this is being run out of here in Texas today. Yes, you can ship ice cream, but interesting, your problem is not packing it up in dry ice and packaging and all that. It's just that FedEx and the other air services are only allowed by law to take a certain amount of dry ice on the plane. And it's not very much. It might be 5 or 6 packages in total. I think it goes back to that problem we had in Florida when the plane went down because they had those generators on board and they started smoking. And if there was nothing wrong with them. What was wrong with them, there were too many on the flight. Okay, the difference between Italian ice and sorbet. That's Italian ice. That's sorbet. I'm going to get $1.50 for this, and I'm going to get about $5.50 for this. That's the only difference. People will argue. You can argue it all day long. Oh, but sorbet has cream in it. Yeah, if you want to put some in, too. You could say sorbet has tapioca if you want to put tapioca in, but I don't know why you would. Same product, different pricing. I'm going to sell at a Little League game lemon, cherry, grape, orange, chocolate, rainbow. To a high-end restaurant, I'm going to sell kiwi, mint, apricot, champagne. Same sugar and water, just different flavors. You can have a little lick. Here, come over here for the camera. Because it's not dairy, it's sugar and water. And so it comes out ready. It's the difference between dairy and non-dairy.
Does this also get better in 8 hours?
No, it just gets gone faster. This is delicious. That is good. I surprised myself. Take that, Jeff. Here, let me move this. I'll be right back. So back on the pasteurizer, we don't sell a pasteurizer, but we recommend one. There's one called the VAT pasteurizer. It's made in the United States, and it does a fantastic job if you're going to go that route. Cappigiani and others have sold pasteurizers in the United States, and they've had to buy them all back. Quite a shock to them because they don't meet U.S. standards. You have to have recording timers, which they don't have. You have to hold the temperature. Pasteurizing is so specific that the tank is at, say, 160 degrees. They even have a thermometer measuring the 4 inches of air above the liquid. That also has to be at 160 degrees. It makes sense. You can't have the air be cooler than the product because then the product near the top is not getting full pasteurization. It's that complicated. But if you want to do it, and there are people who do, they think they can do a better job than the dairy, then we have the right company for you. Yes?
This product, the other product you said was like 2.5 gallons, about $16. What is this? This is cheaper, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. This is probably, let me think. Probably about $2 a gallon. So $6, maybe $8 at the most. It depends on your source of fruit. I like fresh frozen fruit because if I'm in the Italian ice business and I'm showcasing blueberry Italian ice, I had to have blueberry from May until October if I was up in the north. That's the season. After that, forget it. No one's buying Italian ice. Down here, it sells year-round. But blueberries out of Michigan are at their best in June. So what am I going to do in October? The price is going to be too high, and they're not going to be as good. But if I buy the frozen berries and I buy the store brand, whether it's down here, Publix or Walmart, I buy the store brand. They're picked at the peak of freshness. There's no syrups in here. It's just blueberries, and we're going to use later just strawberries. And so I end up, this is what Jeff taught me, and he's so right, we end up doing most of our shopping for flavors right at the supermarket. We used to buy flavors. Strawberry used to come in a tin can. This is, in the industry, this is called a number 10 tin. It's got 3 quarts in it, and it's old strawberries in a gloppy heavy syrup, and red dye 40. And this is the way we used to make ice cream. Now, because the public has gotten more savvy, I do it at the supermarket. My prices are actually lower. I mean, this might cost less per can, but I have to buy a case of 6 cans, and I might not go through that in the season. So I got a lot of front-end cost, and the return is going to come out over 6 months. So I'd rather buy what I need, because what if people don't like my blueberry? Maybe it's not a good flavor for that market. I can drop it. I don't want to be left with 5 extra cans. So everything fresh wherever I can. I ran into a company. Let me go get you a sample, because this is really funny. This company, and this is new to me, but they've been around a lot, it's called Green Mountain Flavors. And Green Mountain Flavors is not in Vermont. They're in Oswego, Illinois. And they're making all natural flavors for ice cream. So when I showed you that red, white, and blue, that was made with artificial colors and flavors that I had on hand, and not very good stuff. The president of this company, Green Mountain Flavors, was kind enough to send me some samples. And one of the samples he sent me was beet juice. And I just cracked up. I wrote him an email. I said, maybe you're in a different market in the Midwest, but who on earth is going to eat beet juice Italian ice? And I could just hear him laughing at me at the other end of the email, because he wrote back, he said, the beet juice is so you can get that nice red color in your cherry Italian ice without using artificial colors, because the beets are bright red. And you're not going to taste the beets. It's been processed. But it's just strictly for getting a nice color that will attract children without having to go all chemical. So that was terrific. So Green Mountain Flavors, terrific stuff. You love beets. Oh, yeah, so does Paula. We left an unfinished portion of beets up in Charleston, South Carolina at 2 Meeting Street, a wonderful place to stay. But that was 3 years ago. And she says she wants to go back to get her beets out of the freezer. Okay, what I've made here is a big mess, but what can we make next? Oreo. Sure. Oreo. Is that what's next?
That's a Jeff one.
Using your frozen fruit too, putting it in your machine, it doesn't tear it up as bad as letting it fall off.
Oh, I thaw the fruit first.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. No, because a blueberry's got high moisture in it. And so if they don't thaw, they're going to be very icy. In fact, if you've ever had strawberry ice cream that was made on that hand crank machine, and it's got little chunks of marbles in the form of strawberries in it, that's the moisture in the strawberry. So if I want to use fresh strawberries, I take them and I cut them in halves or quarters and lay them out on a cookie sheet, and then you do what's called sugaring the fruit. And it's just putting sugar on the fruit. You put a light coating of sugar over that fruit, throw it in the refrigerator overnight. The sugar will be absorbed into the fruit, and now you've got sweetened pieces of strawberry that if you throw them in as it's coming out aren't going to be little marbles. So little tricks like that.
If you were to put like brownie pieces or cheesecake pieces or something kind of crumbly like that, would that be what you mix in as it's coming out?
Yes, because I want to, as I do the Oreo right now, I'm going to put half my Oreos into the machine for my fruit flavor, and the other half for appearance sake, fruit identity. So yeah, if I was using the brownies, I'd put half in so that every particle of ice cream is going to have a brownie taste, and I'd probably bolster that also with a little Hershey syrup. Excuse me? No, no. See, they're so soft, the machine's going to grind them up. Anything that you put in pretty much is going to be ground up like a Cuisinart, with the exception of candies and nuts. Whole walnut, M&Ms will break in half. Whole walnuts will break into quarters. So here's a little purchasing tip. Whole walnuts, a 50-pound bag of whole walnuts is really expensive. Why put expensive whole walnuts into a machine that's going to turn them into walnut pieces? Buy the walnut pieces at probably a third to a half less price. And if you had a hardening room, you could store them in the hardening room, and they'd be good for months and months because you've got them so nice and cold.
You ever use Reese's peanut butter cups of ice cream?
Yes, Reese's Pieces. I've used Payday, all sorts of candies. They come out great.
What about just peanut butter?
Peanut butter was one of my choices to make today, which I decided not to do. Oh, I know. You can't make everything. Come back. A whole jar of peanut butter right into the machine. The real ice cream makers, the ones who don't want to work hard, use Jif because it's got so much oil in it, it flows easier for the Jif. Because oil and water don't mix, so oil in a batch of ice cream is not a good idea. But the Jif flows easily. I like Smucker's, and I like Smucker's Crunchy, so that's what I use. You make it as the last flavor of the day because it gums up everything. It's going to be in the chute. It's going to be on the knobs. Anywhere it is in contact, it's going to stick. So you make peanut butter last, right in the machine, and then the jelly, as it's coming out, you just stir in the jelly. And then you've got peanut butter and jelly Italian ice or ice cream. Yes?
On the chunk, what if you were to add them right the last 3 or 4 turns before you shut it off, and is it going to still beat up too bad, or is it going to leave it a little more chunky right there? Instead of putting it in after the fact.
Putting the chunks in at last is a little tricky. You'll get good at doing it, but otherwise there's no room. The ice cream is expanded, and it'll all sit up here. What you do if you want to add chunks is you open the gate part way, and as it's coming out, you've got a vacuum. And so you can be pouring them in then, and they'll come out with it.
A little better mix that way.
It's not much different, though, from adding it here. There's a couple of ways to add here. You can open it part way like I did and just throw them in, or most people open it up, take out a gallon, close it, throw in some chunks, stir it twice with a spatula, open it up, close it, stir it twice with a spatula. Variegated ice creams, variegated ice cream is like a butterscotch swirl. If you put the butterscotch in here, it's going to disappear. You won't see it. So you can either do butterscotch or strawberry or chocolate by dipping your spatula into the butterscotch, and as it's coming out, you take out a gallon and you stir it through. Or you can take a pastry bag and just put it right here and squeeze in an ice ribbon. I didn't do that way for 25 years because have you ever washed a pastry bag? You're in like this and you're trying to get it clean, until I was talking to a pastry chef one day and she looked at me like I was from Mars. She grabbed the pastry bag by the bottom metal tip and then rolled it onto her arm and stuck it under the sink. And I'm going, oh, why didn't I think of that? So easy. So you never stop learning.
You make chocolate peanut butter and it's got like almost chunks of frozen or hard peanut butter in it. You put that peanut butter in towards the end so it stays more in a lump. Some chocolate peanut butters have those chunks almost of peanut butter in it.
Well, peanut butter out of a jar like you'd make a sandwich with, I put right in the machine. If you want chocolate in there, there was a guy in Sparta, New Jersey years ago who showed me this. He was a candy store. He took, I think, what they call Roebling chocolate. It's blocks of chocolate, melted it down in a double boiler, and don't try this in any other machine. As the ice cream's in there, excuse me, and it's already firmed up, he's pouring in this liquid hot chocolate. It hits the cold ice cream and shatters into a regular sized pieces of candy. So you not only have the ice cream, you've got an odd sized piece of chocolate. If you you can buy a certain type of chocolate that the Italians sell for the product they make, and I'm pronouncing it wrong. I call it stracciatella. They call it something similar to that. And that's it's almost like the old Carvel brown bonnet, where you took a soft ice cream and dipped it into the chocolate and it immediately hardens. They have a chocolate like that comes out of Italy, or I'm sure here too, that you pour it in and it makes ribbons of finished chocolate. But I like the chocolatier's idea of taking a high-quality chocolate, not something that's really waxy, and throwing it right in here.
I guess I meant more of a chocolate-based ice cream that has a peanut butter taste, and then they have more chunks of peanut butter in it. You know, not chunks, but like ribbons almost.
I haven't seen it. I'd have to taste it to tell you what's in it. Once I taste an ice cream.
How would you get them to stay more in a chunk of peanut butter?
Peanut butter on a slow pat, put it in the freezer, and then like throw those in.
Frozen.
Oh, what a neat idea. See, there you go.
There we go.
I learned something new. That's cool. Yes?
Showing how to make ice cream, Italian ice, sorbets. Why not popsicles?
I'm glad you brought it up. One of my favorite things in being in business, and like I said, I've been doing this since I was 16. I love to see fads come and go. It's just fascinating. And the money that is lost, and the few people who make a lot of money off of a fad. There's very few people today who know that frozen yogurt was at its heyday, gigantic, in 1977. That's when frozen yogurt first came out. Everybody thinks today it's something brand new. The frozen yogurt, when it came out in 1977, it came out of Boston. The company was Bison. It was actually a yogurt that had a live culture in it, and it was tart. You either loved it or you hated it. It was a tart ice cream. Over time, most people hated it, and so they took out the live culture, and it's like making a martini for James Bond. You just whisper vermouth over the gin. That's about as much of a yogurt as it is. They say they have a live culture in it, but it's got so little in it. It's nothing but soft ice cream. And it was huge in the 70s, hung around for about 6 or 8 years, and then the New York Times killed it off because they did an expose saying that gas stations were putting frozen yogurt machines in. And what did a gas jockey know about dairy product? And people were getting sick. They were selling it on corners, and TCBY put up a frozen yogurt place where I used to get my lawnmower fixed. Now, you can imagine what kind of location that is if you go there for your lawnmower. It's not on Main Street. And it just burned itself out, and this is burning itself out dramatically. I'm going to get your point. Yogurt is a dead item. They just don't know they're dead yet. It started on the West Coast, and the way I can prove it is you go to eBay, and a few years ago you would see a Taylor soft serve machine for sale by you. Nowadays you see 5 Taylor machines for sale by him. That means he was a yogurt store and he's gone out. And everybody looked at yogurt and said, oh man, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to make a killing. He's making $1 million a week. And so now you've got 5 yogurt stores in Savannah, Georgia on one street for a town that can only support one frozen dessert business. And that was my friend Stratton Leopold. And he's a great movie producer, does all the Tom Cruise movies. And he's the only one left. He's the last man standing because he had a good quality product. They have a lot of chemicals in yogurt. They fooled women primarily because men don't usually eat yogurt. They told women that this was fat-free. And yes, it is fat-free. There's no fat in it. It can be made no fat. But if you take out fat in order to mathematically freeze a product, you got to add another freezable item in there, and that's sugar. So it's fat-free, but it will put the pounds on you. And as that comes out, and as they start selling it at gas stations, these places are going out of business so fast, it's unbelievable. They're great for my customers because they can pick up the store. The guy's gone bankrupt and lost his shirt. The only people who made money were Taylor selling the machines or Electro-Freeze. But the plumbing is in, the electric is in. It's a great place to pick up and open an ice cream parlor because most of your overhead stuff is already done. So that was yogurt. And then 2 years ago was salted caramel. Every ice cream on earth was salted caramel. How do you make? I judge it on the phone calls I get. I take about 40 calls a day around the world. Everybody was asking about salted caramel. And the best salted caramel to me is By Right Creamery in San Francisco. She really got this going. And she uses our machines, of course. And that was all the big rage. Then came along popsicles. Last year, every third phone call was popsicles. Can I make popsicles? And there were beautiful pictures of people with different mango and kiwi and apricot popsicles, and they were all lined up, and they looked gorgeous. Since January 1st, I have not gotten one phone call on popsicles. It's a dead fad. It's already come and gone. But I got a call yesterday. I love this. Those of you, anybody over the age of 20 will like this. Guy calls up and says, I need a machine because I've invented a new product. Really? What is it? Well, if you promise not to tell anybody, hey, I can keep a secret. Yeah, right. I take any flavor of ice cream I want, and I put it between two wafers, and then I freeze it. I said, wow, that's fantastic. What do you call this thing? I'm going to call it an ice cream sandwich. Man, that's amazing. You're going to make a killing. You know, Eskimo Pie was making these 40 years ago, of course, and so is everybody else. But the phone calls coming into me right now are everybody wants to make ice cream sandwiches. I was going to demonstrate them today. I got some molds in from Cold Molds to make hockey pucks, is what I call them, of vanilla ice cream. The only thing that's different is you get a couple of high-quality cookies. Instead of just, you know, the wafer, you get, you know, just something of high quality. Both of them, you have a great ice cream sandwich. I've got customers who are making thousands of these, and they're making an absolute fortune. But I can guarantee you by this time next year or a year and a half, nobody will have heard of cookies like that, ice cream sandwiches. Popsicles have gone completely, they've disappeared. And it's not me saying it, it's me judging by the phone calls I get. I know that gelato's dead because there's hardly any phone calls, and we make more gelato machines than Cappigiani does. It doesn't mean that you don't follow the fad. If you've got a batch freezer and you've got a store, I would jump on any fad that comes along. I just wouldn't change my whole marketing appeal. If all of a sudden guacamole is the big thing to sell, and I'm a steakhouse, I'm not abandoning the steaks, but I'm sure happy to add guacamole for a while it's a big hit.
So if you were gonna make a popsicle, you just make the batter inside your machine and then put it in a different mold and to get the sticks in it.
Yes. Yeah, in the smallest form, and I have one in my car, I'll get it after lunch. Cold Molds, a company, it's a side business for me. He owns an ice cream parlor called Mad Maggie's, and his poor wife, for the last 30 years, she goes to parties and go, are you Mad Maggie, and why are you mad? Poor her. She's a nice lady. But Steve Rapucci, he has Mad Maggie's, and he makes cold molds, and they're excellent. He has them for cakes. He has them for popsicles. They're kind of a rubber kind of substance, so you fill them, you freeze them, and then you just pop them out. And they're great. If you want to get really big on it, you got to go down to Brazil and buy a $30,000 or $40,000 machine, which is basically a saltwater tank, and you are dipping the things into it. There's no market. It'll be gone in a year. I stick to what I do best. You go to Rolls-Royce for a Rolls-Royce. You go to Thermos for a Thermos bottle. Emery Thompson is the leader in batch freezers. We did make, I'm getting off the subject, but we're going to have lunch as soon as Paul gets back. My uncle was I'm a bit of an inventor. My uncle was worse. And he and my father ran the business before me. He decided he was going to make a pizza oven that could cook. You know how a pizza oven is. They're narrow, and they take 3 or 4 pizzas, just on a shelf. He was going to make one that could cook 12 pizzas at once, stacked. And it was going to be electric instead of gas-fired. And he invented it, and it was great. But it was built Emery Thompson tough. It had gold-wing doors with handles. So if you're here, one door opened like this, and the other door opened like that. The idea being that before you got that blast of heat in your face, the air would vent up and down away from your face. It was ingenious. It could cook pizzas faster. It cooked 12 at a time. If you had it in a franchise, it would be great. The only different problem was it was so well built. Those doors must have weighed 70 pounds each, and when we were demonstrating, he was demonstrating it one day. He pulled on it, and all of a sudden the springs took hold, clipped him in the chin, hit him in the gut. He was out cold. My father just looked at his brother and said, we're not building these. So even we make mistakes. Yes? We're ready. I'm starved.
Okay.
They've been eating ice cream all morning, but I'm hungry.
Okay.
Great. So
Why don't you build the cabinets anymore?
too expensive. You've got Nelson, which is the best in the country, C. Nelson Company. You've got Masterbuilt, and you've got Global, which used to be Kelvinator. And they are mass producing them in such a level, like refrigerators, that they can do them far cheaper than I could. I built that for myself. That's a 30 below hardening cabinet, and that thing's probably worth about $15,000, $20,000.
I noticed there's a quarter-inch difference in thickness between the Nelson and the Masterbuilt on the insulation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's very much?
The Nelson being more?
Yes, it's a quarter-inch thicker on the insulation.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a considerable amount?
They do in cost cutting. I know all the backstories. I know all the manufacturing techniques. They said, oh, we can cut back on the insulation because we're putting in more efficient compressors. Bull. They cut back on the insulation. That's all there is. The Nelson's a better cabinet. That's a Nelson. That's 17 years old. And
if you were buying one, is that what you would buy, is the Nelson?
If I could afford it, yes. It's going to be maybe 20% more than... see, if you buy any of this equipment, you as individual ice cream parlors, they all sell through dealers. And a dealer is nothing more than a paper pusher. If you're the Masterbuilt dealer, you're taking the order, you're sending it into the factory, and the factory is drop shipping you a dipping cabinet. So you need the cheapest paper pusher you can find because he's not doing anything. He or she's not doing anything for you except collecting money. So I found Turnkey Parlor. It's turnkeyparlor.com. And Neil Williams is president of that. And they sell at the smallest margins that they can. And that's where I want to go because it's the same stuff. In the old days, a restaurant supply house would say, oh, but we deliver and install it. Okay, well, deliver it means that they take the cardboard box off it, and install it means they plug it in. You know, I can do that. I can take a cardboard box off and plug it in. But, oh, Sadie, she's going to start barking. I can tell. Thank you. Anyway, we're ready for lunch. We're going to have some chips up there and sandwiches, and the sodas and the ice are right there, and we'll take a little break and then come back and make more stuff. Okay, now I'm going to get ready. We'll make some Oreo. Take your time. Anybody think of any questions while we're having lunch? Yes.
Container, container?
Yes.
One is stainless steel and one is plastic. What do you think that which is the best?
See, in a gelato case, they use the stainless steel. That's what goes into the gelato case. And this is a liner that's supposed to be a one-time use. But these one-time use ones will last about 6 months. And so I use them. I don't have a gelato case. So I like these because these are easy to transport. You can put a lot of them into a freezer. I'll tell you a great secret about making ice cream when you get to be my age is every once in a while you have to go see a specialist. Like I had this one eye doctor up in Columbia Presbyterian in New York, and he only saw odd cases, and his secretary would tell you, come at 3 o'clock, bring War and Peace, you're going to be here for hours. And so I thought, I can get around this, you know, that's what we do. And so I brought ice cream. And this is a great container to carry it with instead of a tub. And if you do bring ice cream to a doctor, also bring the spoons and the bowls, but don't give up the ice cream. Don't give it up to the receptionist. Just say, here, I'll take that for you. No, I'll just hold on to it. I want to give it to the doctor. You know, they know it's melting, and he knows it's melting. So I don't care what time you came in. You're coming in first. So I did that. I did that about 3 times with this one doctor, and then one time I brought ice cream, and I sat there. You know, they took the ice cream from me. I must have waited 2 hours for this doctor. And by this time, we're on a first-name basis. Like, hey, Jeff, you know, what gives? I waited 2.5 hours, and I brought you ice cream. He said, the lady before you brought brownies, and I wasn't hungry. But I bring ice cream over to Paula's relatives over on the other side of the state, and you know, these are just very handy. And oh, the other thing more important than my stories about doctors is Haagen-Dazs. You know, if you wanted to sell to a restaurant, Haagen-Dazs walks in, and again, I told you we put them in business, and Ben and Jerry and Breyers and Bluebell. their salesmen are young men who have just come off the football field, just gotten out of college. They're about 6'4", 230 pounds, and they've got a huge ego. And Haagen-Dazs gives them a bigger ego. They walk in and see the executive chef and go, well, we're Haagen-Dazs. You know, like they're supposed to be impressed. And their rules are, oh, we're going to sell you 10 tubs of our Haagen-Dazs, and we deliver once every 2 weeks. Well, remember I said that the money is made at the tables and not in the kitchen? There's not a lot of freezer space. And so this guy wants you to take 10 tubs, and he's delivering once every 2 weeks. The secret to a restaurant is anytime they want to update their restaurant, they change the menu up a bit. So the executive chef is thinking, how do I know what I want to serve 10 days from now? And where am I going to store 10 tubs? You walk in with these take up a lot less space, and you can stack them, you know, this way and that way. So the space that 2 tubs takes up, you can get probably about 6 of these. And you're saying to the chef, we can deliver a minimum of 3 tubs. We deliver every 3rd day. And then you hit them with the hook, and you say, oh, by the way, chef, if you have any ideas on how to make my lemon sorbet or my mango, by all means tell me, and I'll have our chef make it for you. So you're customizing the product to what they want. You're giving them a smaller quantity to hold on to, and it works out perfectly. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of restaurants who want to buy ice cream. Also country clubs. Country clubs are a little more difficult. They want the very best, and they want it for free. So there's a little trouble there. So they want a dipping cabinet brought in, and you know, you'll get a Breyers to do that, but you're not going to get Haagen-Dazs to do that.
Do you recommend like covering with the plastic wrap or with the cover?
I use the plastic wrap. It works just fine.
How long you can do it? Because isn't it that it will have an ice crystal or, you know?
Well, the trick to it is, you know, after you fill this up, put the plastic wrap on it and then mash it down a little bit because it's going to make a seal there, and it's just, as long as you're sealing off the air, it's fine. But you know, these are real nice, and these come from a company called gelatosupply.com.
They have half sizes too.
Yeah, that's right. They have the half sizes, which are great.
So if you get down, you can transfer it over to a smaller one and get rid of 2 flavors in one spot, so you don't
Yeah.
have to like you have to have them containers.
And it's all about space. If I was going into, 10 years ago, if I was going to a restaurant, I'd be offering up 3-gallon tubs because they had no choice. That was all that was available, and when you have no choice, it becomes the standard. But if one of you comes along and has a better container that's going to take up less space, it's going to be a big hit. Sometimes the packaging is what gets you in the front door. There's a ice cream in the supermarkets now. I think I'm probably killing the name, something like Talenti or Talenti. It's in plastic mason jars, is the best way to describe it. Plastic pint container with a screw-on lid. And I don't, but it won't be hard to find because, but they're great. It's what got them in the door, and then their products are pretty darn good. Some of mine are better than theirs. Some of theirs are better. They all tend on the sweet side, but it's the packaging that attracts you in the store, and then you reuse the containers at home, which is really terrific. If you want to know anything about anybody, it's really easy because I'm a salesman, so I know how to get around me. In the ice cream business, we used to. My customers actually used to go dumpster diving, 11 o'clock at night. You know, they're going out in Jeff's backyard and going through the trash to see where he's getting his mix. You don't have to do that because every salesman wants a sale.
Trouble finding pint-sized clear plastic.
Like
The one you're talking about, or like Jenny's ice cream out of Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking for ways, like getting samples, none of them are my own.
Well, keep calling up, and you call up every supplier you can find, manufacturer, not the supplier, but the manufacturer, and you ask the same question. Do you make the Talenti containers? And you're going to get, if there's 3 manufacturers, you're going to get 3 answers. One is, the salesman handles that out of the office. I'll have him get back to you. The second answer is going to be, my computer's down. I'll get back to you. The person who supplies those containers, and he's been sworn to secrecy, is going to lean back in his chair, put his feet up on his desk, light a cigar, and say, you're damn right I sell to him, because you're already convinced that that's the container you want. And so it's an easy, the sale is done. And people call up here and say, do you sell to Humphrey Slocum in San Francisco? I go, yeah, sure do. That horrible meat ice cream he makes. And it's an instant sale because they say, well, I want to copy him, therefore I'm going to buy the machine. So you just keep asking around, try to get to the manufacturers. Usually there's stamped on it somewhere. Nothing, huh? They're keeping it secret then.
A lot of time. And they are, if you even call Jenny's, they won't tell us where they're
Yeah. Wow.
crazy.
It'll come out because once the manufacturer feels secure in that order, they're going to want to expand. But it's a great container.
Do you think, Steve, that you can talk on each other if we don't pick the freezing point? Do you think that container after you make ice cream, you can stack it up?
These are a pint container.
Can you stack it up in the freezer?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Or it affects the freezing point?
No, when you open up one of these freezers, the hardening cabinets, they're all stacked on top of each other very tightly. That's why they have to go so cold. They're blowing a lot of air, but there's not a lot of air circulation around.
And do you recommend that every container should have some kind of space in between?
No. Again, it's the whole purpose of an upright freezer like that is we're so cold that we're compensating for that. Like I said, if I had a walk-in room, I could do 10 degrees not as cold because I would have the good air circulation. Yes?
How cold should you keep ice cream? Like after you make it, should you take it down to 0 and hold it? If it's gonna be a week or two till you use it, or
The colder you can keep it, the better it is. So if you can take it to 30 below, it's going to be better than 10 below. But it really matters about how fast you're going to turn over the product. I said that I made a lot of changes in the gelato industry, and I did. I wrote an article years ago and said, why can't we harden gelato? Because, and I don't want to bore you with this whole thing, but if you're over in Florence, Italy, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning and you want tiramisu, you walk into the gelateria. I'm sorry, we just ran out, and we're not making any more till this afternoon. Well, you don't care because there's another gelateria a block and a half away. They have so many of them. You can go to another block and a half. You have no customer loyalty. If I go up to Cape Cod to 4 Seas Ice Cream, and I haven't been there in 2 years, and I love his mint chip, he can't afford to run out of mint chip because I'm going to be a unhappy customer if they run out. So an American ice cream parlor must have every flavor they advertise all the time. The Italians just run out. They say, sorry, go get it somewhere else. And that's the culture they're used to. So Americans tried to hybrid that, and they said, okay, we're going to go into the gelato business. We're going to make it fresh every 3 days because that's about the shelf life at a scooping, gelato temperature. And so every 3 days, they're throwing out all their inventory. Because the other thing about Europe is they eat ice cream the way we have, for lunch. Oh, boy. We have a bag of chips and a Diet Coke for lunch. And at 3 in the afternoon for a snack, we have a Diet Coke and a bag of chips. They don't do that. You can't find that bag of chips and Diet Coke as easily. They have gelato. So they eat a lot more gelato than we do. We only eat it once a week. If we ate it once or twice a week, more than that, our cardiologist would kill us. And so Americans just don't eat it that often. But you can't afford to run out. So I said, you purists who are making gelato and every third day, if it isn't sold, you have to dispose of it. That'd be like me. If I get 2 trucks a week of steel in here and I have to throw a third of that steel away because I didn't move it, I'd be broke in no time. And that's what happened to gelaterias. They went broke throwing out inventory. So I said, why can't you harden this stuff? And so then that's become the norm that you can buy gelato now that's been hardened to 30 below and delivered to you. 10 years ago, that would have been heresy to do something like that. Let me get this going, and then I can answer more questions. This is a really easy one. I'll get one more rinse in here, and I'll get the ice cream mix. Again, if you raise it above the lip, you're probably not going to spill. I'm sorry?
What temperature is gelato dip good at?
Usually about 12 or 13 degrees Fahrenheit. But the cabinets are different. We use cold wall cabinets, and they use forced air. The cold wall cabinets are less expensive to manufacture. I mean, a good American dipping cabinet might be $4,000, and a good and a low-priced Italian one's going to be $12,000 or $15,000.
You can't keep gelato right.
You can, you absolutely can. I could make this with an even lower fat product and lower the air way down and call it Oreo cookie gelato. Except you'll never find Oreo cookie gelato in Italy, but there's no reason. I mean, there's no difference. The difference is I won't be putting my ice cream on a cone. At 11 or 12 degrees, it's going to be in a bowl. And I had a series of ice cream parlors in Philadelphia, and they were long, narrow stores. And you would walk down. It was very well done. You'd walk down, and behind the server are the signs of the different flavors. And the server would greet you and say, "Would you like your?" She'd almost greet you like this, or he. "Would you like your ice cream in a cone or a cup?" We're pushing the cup. "Oh, I'll take it in a cup." "So what would you like?" "Well, I'll have mint chip." "You have mint chip." Now we're walking to the cash register, and you're passing by a bain-marie of nuts and cookies and granola and M&Ms, and we eat with our eyes. "Would you like some M&Ms?" "Sure." "Well, there's 40 cents. Would you like some granola?" "There's 40 cents. And then I take it down, finish the sale, and then go back and start over. So I have a very nice flow. What's different from the yogurt places is they let you do it yourself. And they gave you not this cup, but they gave you something that was almost a half pint in size. 4 ounces in this is going to fill it up. 4 ounces in what they give you in a yogurt store is going to look like, is that it? So you keep pulling the handle. And, and it's 99 cents an ounce or something like that. So all of a sudden you've got 7 or 8 ounces, which you never intended to eat. And then
Comes out there like $12.
$12, yeah. The Wall Street Journal said it was around 11, so that's exactly right. So what happens is, just like why Cold Stone Creamery has eventually failed, is because my guys are working in the factory, and they bring their wife and 2 children. They go into Cold Stone, or they go into these yogurt places, and they drop $40 on ice cream, and they calculate, how many hours did I have to work at Emery Thompson to get that $40? And it's too much. And so it's an example of pricing going haywire. But when the person was controlling it, serving it, then it's a little easier.
You gotta give your employees a raise.
Yes, absolutely. Jack is taking this in right now, and he's going to organize everybody right after the class. Thank you very much. You're a sweetheart. Let me go get the mix. This is a real easy ice cream, but it's so popular.
Steve, why does it say strawberry cream ice and the first thing is blueberry? The first thing on the list. Should that be strawberry?
No, that's me typing wrong at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's good.
I was up to, I didn't get this done until about 10 or 10:30 last night.
Excellent. Just thought maybe that was the secret.
No. I once put in one of my videos that there was a secret ingredient. That was like 7 years ago, and people are still calling up and saying, "What's the secret ingredient?" And I go, what was I making? It was a little bit of lemon juice.
Do you know right offhand where you get that mixing thing you're using
That
there?
plastic container.
That would, no, the one you just, that right there.
Probably the Webb restaurant store.
Yeah, okay, I know where
You
that.
have a restaurant depot anywhere near you? They're a chain, they have them.
They're-
Bakery supply house.
Yeah, they're real nice.
They sure would nice.
It's just a camera.
Put vanilla in it?
They make square ones too.
Yes.
Vanilla?
Yeah.
Put vanilla in everything?
Most everything, unless there's a predominant flavor like chocolate or strawberry.
Does that come as a chocolate base?
You can buy a chocolate base, but I wouldn't recommend it because, again, what business is the person in? Are they in the dairy business or the chocolate business? They're in the dairy business, so they're going to provide you with great dairy. They're not going to provide you with a great chocolate. And chocolate is just way too subjective. Paula, my wife, likes the 70-80% cocoa, the stuff that tastes like chalk. And I think a Hershey's candy bar is the be-all and end-all of chocolate. So I'm considered very low class, but I like the taste of a Hershey bar. And Paula isn't going to touch it unless it's something really exotic. So everybody is so different on chocolate. That's why it's got to be by your taste, and that's why some ice cream parlors will have 2 or 3 different chocolates, so they hit a chord with somebody. So we got the vanilla in here. And turn on the refrigeration and the Oreos.
Steve, does your recipe book, the recipe book that you advise,
Yes,
does it give the speeds in there of like what flavor, what speed you should run it at to make that flavor?
no, because the speeds are going to be dependent on what it is you're selling in the store, and then you're going to stick with that speed.
But how do you know what speed to run it at?
Well, it's a matter of what you're making and what your market is as far as what you can afford. In
Does your infinite controls tell you that, like if you're making vanilla, that you should run it at this RPM?
no, because it doesn't matter. Well, it tells you the product you're making, like was there Italian ice or gelato. It doesn't tell you vanilla or strawberry because there won't be any difference. If you're going to run everything at super premium. See how I'm just dropping these in?
So if you're making ice cream at a certain speed, that's it, no matter what flavor?
That you choose. Yes, you can do high overrun, you can do super premium, you can do a Haagen-Dazs, you can do a gelato. They're all lower speeds and heavier.
And then your machine is gonna decide if the speed's right, it's gonna do on its own, right?
Yes.
Some space.
Yeah. Oreo cookie. Mint Oreo cookie. And I'm just dropping them in here, and it's going to grind them all up. It is. And that's going to give me my fruit flavor, my Oreo flavor. If I was blindfolded and tasted this, you'd say, yeah, that's Oreo cookie. And I'm using a lot of Oreo cookies. Excuse me? Making, yeah. Well, normally for this size, I'd use 1 bag. But I want to really make a wow Oreo. So now...
Does it matter what you're mixing? Like, let's say if it's more than it's required, it affects the consistency of the ice cream?
No, it won't change it. No. And now I'm taking each cookie and just breaking it into pieces so that I have my flavor in the machine and I have the identity. What is this? It's Oreo cookie when you go to scoop it. And there's no substitute for Oreos. They're the best. Dumb marketing mistakes. People who didn't watch Shark Tank, but it wasn't on back then. When Oreo cookie was first made, the first person I found that made it was Mike's Ice Cream in Secaucus, New Jersey. And Mike called it Oreo cookie ice cream. Most places you go, you'll see cookies and cream, except the newest stores. They're now back to Oreo. Why? Because Nabisco had a branch office in Secaucus, and some middle management idiot at Nabisco said, we're going to sue you for using our name without us allowing you to do it. And my friend Mike, you know, he's from Secaucus, New Jersey. It's quite unique. He said, "You mean you're going to give up all this free name recognition just to protect your name going to ice cream?" They said, "Yeah, that's right. We're going to sue you." And so for 20 years, people had to call it Cookies and Cream. And then Oreo Cookies, somebody woke up over there at management and said, "You know what? We're losing out on all this free advertising. Why don't we sell our broken pieces that we can't sell in stores in 25-pound bags and let the people call it Oreo cookie ice cream? It's free advertising." It did take them 20. You know, there was nobody happier than me when the movie E.T. Phone Home came out. Was that named after your machine? You're darn right. So there's just enough left for Paula and me. So that's all that's in here. Oreo cookies. It's got all the taste in there.
Is the green icing on purpose?
The green is mint.
Oh, you're making it.
Yeah, mint Oreo cookie. It's just a little extra pizzazz. Let's see. Oh, let me show you something. Because you mentioned the green mint flavor, it just triggered something in my mind. That's from Christmas. That's candy cane ice cream. And I just took candy canes and threw them in the machine. No, I take it back. I ground them up first in a blender because I'm so afraid of getting a shard. So I ground them up first, and a couple of boxes of candy canes, and that's my whole flavor right there, candy cane. Great for Christmas. But one little trick, if you ever make it, they also make candy canes that are red and green. Don't buy them because it makes the ice cream look like mud. Yeah, the green does not work. This is something someone mentioned before. You know how if you're making a lunch for kids, you have a block of blue ice and you throw in their lunch pail? Well, this is a version of that I found that you can get at those web restaurant stores. This is like a giant blue ice. It comes in white or black, and it's filled with refrigerant in here. And you freeze it down the night before, and you can put your 3-gallon or 2.5-gallon tub in it. And I've left a tub of Italian ice out there for about 5 hours, and it was still scoopable in this thing. And so for my people who are just starting out with no money and they're just buying this in one push cart, this solves all the problems of the push cart. You don't have to get dry ice. You don't have to get what we call brine slugs, which are basically the blue ice. So this is pretty neat. I think they sell these for about $87. They make a domed lid. Don't buy the lid because if it's domed, you can't stack anything on top of it. And that really solves the problem. In fact, a smaller version of it, I froze this overnight, and this is what I'm keeping my milk in for the coffee. So that milk's nice and cold. This is still freezing cold. So it's just a neat little thing. I didn't do it today, but I make a lot of liquor ice creams and liquor sorbets. A real good sorbet is 2 bottles of a dry red wine, and then the 750 milliliter, 2 bottles for this machine. 2 bottles of dry red wine, refill the bottles with water, pour that in, 2 pounds of sugar, and then 2 of those bags, 2 of the bags of red raspberries. Just throw that all in the machine and you have a wonderful red wine sorbet.
If you
Yes.
do that, can you sell it to anybody, or is it kind of like age-wise with kids?
It's more for restaurants or doing parties. You know, people like to have something different, so they'll pay $60 or $80 for a 2.5-gallon tub of something unique that nobody else has done for a party. So there's a market for it, but it's great fun for your friends. It's great for restaurants. And we're the only machines that have enough refrigeration that you can put the alcohol right in there. At Christmas time, I make a Grand Marnier liqueur ice cream, which is a very expensive orange liqueur. And you pour a bottle of that into the bigger machine and 6 California navel oranges, and you just grate off the zest so that you have just little specks. Here's a zester.
You're making that,
These things.
The liability, a kid 16 years old gets in an accident on his bicycle after eating your wine.
I'm only making.
They sue you because you served them alcohol.
I'm only selling. I'm only giving it to my friends, so I don't have to buy them another Brooks Brothers tie. You know, it's a better Christmas present.
You can't sell that.
No, it's not. I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just saying that it's the only machine that you can put alcohol in, and have it be in suspension without. Every other machine, you have to add the alcohol as it's coming out. We had one guy from Kentucky after one of the trade shows brought up some moonshine. I think that stuff was about 140 proof, and we made it into an ice cream, and we put it into a 20 below freezer, and it still scooped like it was soft ice cream. It was so much alcohol in it. But with the Grand Marnier, you take the oranges and you just grate off the zest, and you throw it in so you have a pure white ice cream with the smell and the taste of the orange liqueur and the little specks of orange for effect. It's just a great restaurant product. Just finished reading a book. Did I mention this morning? I may be talking to a customer. It's called something like The Ice's Queen of Mulberry Street. And it's a great little book, and it's about this woman who comes over from Russia as an immigrant, and through trials and tribulations, she becomes this huge ice cream conglomerate. And at one point, the conglomerate then decides, her sons, of course, come along and ruin everything. They say, we need to jazz this up. We're old-fashioned. We got pictures of cows and people in gingham dresses. We need to jazz it up. So they jazzed it up, and they sold non-alcoholic but liquor implied ice creams. Well, it sold like crazy for 1 week, and then all of a sudden the mothers started calling up. They say, I don't want my 16-year-old eating your liquor ice cream. It's supposed to be a family product. You keep it out of there. So you run a real fine line if you are trying to do liquor in ice cream. One of my customers up in Connecticut did it, put up a sign that said you must be 21 years of age in order to buy these products, which solved this problem as you can't have dual pricing. You can't have vanilla at $3.25 and the liquor at $4. So by having that sign and all, it worked very well for them. But it's still, liquor and ice cream is a risky thing. You're risking the reputation. But it's fun to do. Okay, now this cuts off. It's nice and clean and dry. That ice cream's ready. And I have it on a quite slow speed. So I'm going to open that up all the way and just shake in some pieces. Now I ran this at a gelato speed, so you're going to see it's a much heavier product. And I, of course, got a smaller yield. Now, one little trick from a New Yorker. After you grind up the cookies, in the bottom of the barrel is going to be cookie dust. Left over, just flakes of cookie dust. Don't pour it on top of your ice cream. A New Yorker will swear it's dirt. So don't do it. So let's come up and try this one. You'll find this quite a bit heavier. Let me get a scooper. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like a little more? I didn't give you much.
And the Grand Marnier by itself is like 30-some bucks a bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredibly high. And there's no good substitute. You can try triple sec, but it's not the same.
No.
But if you do a Kahlua and cream, you don't have to use Kahlua. You can use a cheap coffee liqueur and get the same result.
We found a Wegmans product that was right next to the Grand Marnier that was sold as an orange liqueur.
Uh-huh.
Now, we haven't tried it yet, but we're going to give it a try. It's about half the price. So.
Ah. See how much stickier and heavier this is? And I ran this at the gelato speed. So it really changes the texture completely.
Do you think people are liking this more that you're seeing in the smaller shops?
No, I'm finding that people think they want to go into this and then find out they can't afford it.
Okay.
But you have the capability. Because if you're making a higher air content ice cream, then invariably a restaurant's going to come along and say, I like your ice cream, but I wish you could make it heavier. Mm-hmm. And you can just say, fine, I just turned down the dial. Now, again, on this one, my flavor came from just the Oreo cookies. And it will get stronger overnight.
So you're saying that the difference between this and the other ice cream you did earlier is simply the overrun?
Yeah, just the weight. Same 10% butter fat, same, simple flavoring, but look how heavy and dry that is.
Yeah. And so that also makes your volume less.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that'd be ice cream, you have another.
That's good.
That was an ice cream, and how much more would you have out of that in batch? Bucket, you'd have another 2 quarts worth with that overrun?
If I was 100% overrun, this would be full. As it was only 60% full.
So you would call this a gelato?
Yes. Yes. This would be a gelato texture.
Really good. Now, will that get better?
Yes, sure, because it's dairy.
It's delicious.
Yeah. I'll be right back.
Not bad.
Oreo cookie? Oreo cookie gelato. I like your jeans. I like to play with the zippers. There's some pieces of blueberry left in the water here. So a very simple trick that your plumber won't like. Have a spaghetti colander in your sink so you can pour this through it. And that way they're not going down the drain and clogging up your drain.
So does that cookie make a bigger mess? Is it a mess in there, like your blueberries? Or is it finer?
No, it's a lot finer. But see, after making the Oreo cookie, or before making the Oreo cookie, I would make Cookie Monster, which is Oreo cookies, chocolate chips, Oreo cookie, chocolate chip cookies, chocolate chips, and Hershey syrup.
Then you clean it.
Yeah.
Steve, how often are you going to be changing the CB3 cup?
How long what?
How often are you going to be upgrading and changing the machines?
Only if it makes it better. I don't change them unless it makes it better. And this one is perfect.
Just made that one last year.
Excuse me?
That was last year's model.
This actual machine is 4 years old. We updated our own machine with the screen, which we don't do. But nothing else on it has changed. Yes?
My son had a question here. Would you typically sell the gelato for more than you would sell the regular ice cream?
They do. They do sell it for more. Some of it's real, most of it's fake. If you're buying flavors from Fabry or Pre-Gel, like here, I mean, they're good flavors. Fabry makes great flavors. So does Pre-Gel. I like them both. But there is this is Fragola, nice name. It's strawberry, and so when you instead of using their strawberry paste, you can use fresh frozen strawberries and get a better result. It's always going to be better when something comes out of fresh or frozen than a can. I mean, again, this thing has traveled all the way from Italy to Port Elizabeth and then down here. So.
Say, for instance, a serving of ice cream that you would serve for $3, what would you charge for the gelato?
Well, if I was honest, I'd charge $3 because it didn't cost me any more. But gelaterias, I mean, you call up and ask about one of those pans, and they're talking $35 or $38 for a pan of gelato, and that's 6 liters. This is 3 gallons. You're really getting taken to the cleaners.
$30 for that?
Yeah.
We get 40.
You get 40? Wow. And worth every penny. No, again, I said we're in the business to make money. If you're not here to make money, then you're doing the wrong thing. And right now, gelato commands a higher price than ice cream. So if that's what it does, charge higher. Again, how are you going to prove you're better if you don't charge more? I mean, if Haagen-Dazs was $2.59 a pint and Breyers was $2.59 a pint, you'd say, well, you know, what's the difference? She wants a cookie. Now, if I end up getting a little piece of blueberry and some other flavor, I'm not going to worry about it. You know, people know it's homemade ice cream. There isn't going to be anything, but I wouldn't worry about it, with one exception. And again, it's a New York thing. After you make rum raisin ice cream, you should take the machine up, you should clean it, take it apart, bless it, and then start with your next flavor, because a New Yorker knows if there's something in another ice cream that's not called rum raisin and it goes squish, it's a bug. And they'll walk right out on you. That's why you can't sell vanilla bean ice cream in New York. It just won't sell because we know it's cigarette ashes or dirt. But in Philadelphia, you can't sell ice cream unless it's vanilla ice cream unless it's yellow, because they want eggs. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And just, you know, that's a good point. I'd like to say something about that. I was talking to this lady who was going to the ice cream business, one of these classes. Also turned out she was a pharmacist, and she was also a doctor. She started off as a pharmacist and became a doctor. And I said, so let me ask you, what's the story on this nut allergy? Is this a bunch of helicopter parents going crazy? And she said, no. I said, because we never had this. This wasn't around. She said, no, it's absolutely real, and it's absolutely dangerous. And she said, our best theory is that these kids have not been exposed to the dirt and all that we had growing up. They're not hugging dogs and being slobbered. They're not playing in the dirt. They're not getting, and our parents, their parents, are washing everything, every single surface with antibacterial. So they're not exposed to the bacteria, and it's coming out as a food allergy. And I was shocked. And she said, when we say you don't bring nuts into the classroom, we're not kidding, because it's that dangerous. And so, yeah, I tell everybody, you make it either the last product of the day or you tear the machine apart. You can't, I mean, because quite frankly, the food industry is in part, unfortunately, because a lawyer is about not getting sued. And so you have to be absolutely clean and sterile. I tell people if you do 90% of what I tell you, you're 100% ahead of everybody else. But it's extremely important about the nut allergies. Okay, now we're going to make the strawberry cream ice. So let me do that. I have to see if I can find my formula.
This is the one that I was, it's here, that's the one where I was asking about.
Yeah, I
Just so you
mistyped.
know, in case you're looking for your blueberries.
Okay. Yeah. So,
You have to tell me again after class about the orange Grand Marnier recipe.
okay. If you'll just pass these around, just hand them around. It says blueberries, but of course it is strawberries. So we're going to need 2 quarts of water. Paula? Okay. Now, I'm just going to ask her if she has any wine around. Paula? Do you have any wine? Red? Two quarts of water, 1 pound of sugar. Okay.
Pecan, do you have to mix that in the machine, or can you add them later? I mean, like, does it gotta have a ground up, that taste?
The pecans themselves? You buy...
Like you're adding a few ground up Oreo cookies and then, that way you don't contaminate your machine?
No, I put them all in the machine.
Okay.
And you buy pecan pieces.
So your nuts are kind of, you make that the last of your day and then clean out good.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got my 2 quarts of water, my pound of sugar. Think that would go with strawberries? Want to try it? Should we throw in a bottle of Merlot and see what happens? Oh, okay. The sommelier is going to decant it for us. Let me get the strawberries. Well, that's a start.
Hey, Steve, my wife volunteered to check that wine out for you.
Okay, good. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to try this on the fly and see what happens. Oh, yeah, all the time. My uncle was what they would politely call a rummy. And you buy the golden raisins, not the dark ones, and you put them into a bowl, you pour a bottle of Cruisin' rum on it, and let it sit in the refrigerator for about 5 days. And about every day you go back and test it to see how it's doing, or at least that's what he said. And then you pour the whole mixture into the machine. And so what happens is you've got the alcohol, the rum in there with the ice cream, and when you bite into a raisin, you get a little squish of Bacardi or Cruisin', and makes for a great rum ice cream. Down in the Keys, the big thing in the Florida Keys used to be, or still is, strawberry daiquiris. And we've had several, and they would buy these slush machines. We made slush machines back in the 60s, thousands of them. I used to assemble them when I was a teenager. And they'll buy 5 or 6 of them and just make an artificial strawberry base in them. So the bartender comes over, pulls the strawberry base, puts in some, was it rum in a daiquiri, and hand it to you. And that's your strawberry daiquiri. But they can make dozens and dozens and dozens of them until the machines run out. But you have to buy all these machines, and it's very expensive. Well, a guy comes along with one of these, and he's making, in 2 batches, a 3-gallon tub of fresh fruit strawberry sorbet, and the bartender has it behind the counter in a little freezer, and he just scoops it, puts it in the blender, adds the rum, and now you've got a real good strawberry daiquiri, not something that's all artificial. And he can make as many, he can make them as fast as he can scoop this. So it's terrific. No, wrong machine. And let me check that I took the water out. Sometimes I've made product and left the water in there. Oh, good. Okay.
The smaller machine will make ice cream just as fast as the bigger one, right? The time?
Just about, maybe a minute longer. And it comes in 220 volt and 115, or 115 rather. So I've sold a few of these small ones to some very wealthy people. One guy up in Connecticut, in Coscob, has it down by his tennis courts. He built a little ice cream parlor for his children.
I guess I didn't mean the real little one. I mean the one you're working on now versus the one beside it.
Yeah.
They're about the same.
Yes, they're identical. Okay, the sugar and water is in there. I'm going to hit this for sorbet. Am I doing what?
Are you still doing the same amount of water?
Yeah. Yes, because I'm going to get my extra sugar from the strawberries. Hold on, I can't hear you.
Are you doing the same strawberry cream ice, or are you not calling it that anymore? I know you added Merlot.
Yeah, let me think about it for a minute.
Got that ice in there.
Yeah. I think I'll leave the cream out. Instead of making a cream ice, we'll just make this a wine sorbet. Yeah, I'm going to add a little. We build, the small ones are single phase, the bigger ones come either single or 3. We build to the voltage of where the machine is going, the country it's going to. So we shipped yesterday to Indonesia, it was 380 voltage. India, we did one 400 volt. A couple days ago was Australia, that was 460 volt. We don't subscribe to what the Italians do if they take what they make and then make you modify it. No, not necessarily. A 400 volt machine on 50 hertz is going to use less electricity than a 220 in 3-phase. Don't ask me why. I'm not an electrician. I'm going to get one more bag. I'll be right back. Slightly, but they used to give you a break on 3-phase, which they don't anymore. And the problem with 3-phase is it'll only operate in a 3-phase location. So 20 years ago, if I was talking to you, you owned the building. Nowadays, you here rent it, and if the landlord says, "Hey, this looks like a great business, I think I'll take it over and not return your lease. You're thrown out on your ear, and a three-phase machine can only run in a three-phase location. So I urge people to buy single-phase so that they can run it anywhere in North America if they have to move. And, of course, it increases the resale value, but that's a moot point. One of these, 2 years old, just sold on eBay for $4,000 yesterday. 54. 2 years old, 4,000, and new 54. And you don't know what you're getting. And, of course, no warranty. One-year parts, 90 days labor, my home phone number, and a guarantee that the machine arrives in good working condition. If it doesn't, we take care of it. You don't have to deal with the trucking company.
How often your machine needs maintenance?
Needs maintenance? About once every 6 years, if that. In 6 years, you'll probably have to replace the scraper blades. There are 2 O-rings. They're about $5 each on the back. They're once every 2 years. That's it. There's nothing else. We don't anticipate any maintenance on it. In fact, when we moved down here 10 years ago, I had to keep my New York telephone numbers, the 718 area code and the 914, because I have customers who haven't bought parts in 20 years, and they wouldn't know that we moved because they haven't bought anything. So we kept the old numbers. I mean, we get some funny phone calls. People call up and say, I haven't been to your place in 20 years. What subway stop are you off the number 4? And we go, well, the number 4 doesn't come here any longer. And Paula's phone number is 2 digits or 1 digit away from the information desk at the Long Island Railroad. And they would call her, and during a snowstorm, they'd call up and say, is the train into Ronkonkoma on time? And she would explain to them that she's in Florida and this, and people don't listen. And so now, when anybody calls, it's just like you're calling motor vehicles. Everything is on or close to schedule. That's what she says. You gotta love it. And she does it in a beautiful Long Island deadpan. The who? It takes a 20 amp breaker and draws 11. Oh, this is looking good.
Yes, we like your timing. We're able to write down your timing and all these.
Oh, you are?
No.
Oh, because I'm not.
Another one more question. I don't know is it related to this one, but why commercially ice cream maker use like stabilizer and emulsifier? What's the reason?
In the ice cream mix that you buy, there will be stabilizers in here.
Oh, really?
Yes, and you need them. So I'm looking for companies that have as little as possible and natural stabilizer. You can use things like guar gum. It's a gum. Carrageenan. It's seaweed. I don't want polysorbate 80 if I can help it. But you need it because if you take the ingredients, milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk, and make ice cream out and put it in a bowl, within seconds it'll have a brown ring around it because the water comes out of it. And it'll tend to be more icy. Hi there. It'll tend to be more icy than the ice creams that are made nowadays.
When you get the ice cream mix, do they tell you what kind of stabilizer they have?
Yeah, it'll be on the box. It'll say what's in there. $9,950, $22,900, and then the next size up to this $24,900. All our prices are at our website. They're all posted there. This should be good. I'm sorry? No, just air cooled.
One better than the other?
No, we just don't make it in water cooled because people move them around, and instead of having to, and they're looking for low pricing. So instead of hiring a plumber to hook up water connections and return line connections, you just are plugging it into a circuit, and there you go.
So it doesn't need to be mounted, or it can be on.
It can be on a table like this. But the reason I had our engineers design this stand, which is a pyramid design. Oh, I got to check this, sorry. The reason I had them design this is because I'm not going to be hired by the NBA to play basketball. I'm not that tall. And when you take this machine and put it on a standard kitchen table like this, all day long, your employees will be pouring the product in like this. And that gets really exhausting. At this height, you're not going above your shoulders. So it's a lot easier to work with. In a kitchen, space is at a premium. So being on casters, the tripod or the pyramid makes it extremely stable. And being on casters, you can tuck it away in a corner when you're not using it. No, it's $453. I'm free, but the stand is. So you can see it's real easy to make a very fresh product. You don't have to use chemicals. You don't have to buy cases and cases of flavors. You can do it all from the supermarket, which makes life a lot easier. Yeah, right. And when you creativity hits you and you want to try something like bananas and coffee, you can try. Huh?
Bananas and brownies.
Yes, bananas and brownies would be good. Yeah. Yeah, it does. I think on my coffee I used chocolate chips. Did I in here? We don't have it here. Well, that's what I'm going to make last.
Steve, do you keep any machines in inventory?
We try to keep these in inventory, but we build them about 35 or 40 at a time, and they sell out as fast as we can get them. So the wait on this one is 10 days. The bigger machines are 5 weeks. And it drops to 4 weeks around November.
So like, let's say if you want to put powder, how long it takes?
This machine, 10 days. Let's see how this looks. Excuse me? That's immediate. We have those in stock. How many what? 3. No, it doesn't. It's set at 50% overrun. So it's going to be perfect for super premium ice cream, gelato, and all the sorbets. What you can't do with it is custard. You can't do a very low product. So I'm going to turn that off and watch how fast this comes out. You'll have to tell me how this is because I'm not a wine drinker. And I want to know, did one bottle do it or did it need a second bottle? So come on up and... Well, yeah.
So because you're not a wine drinker, will you taste it?
No. Nope.
Because Greg won't either. Same reason.
No, I lost my liquor license when I got diabetes. It affects people differently. I can't go near popcorn or alcohol. I know, especially the popcorn. Go to a movie and try not eating popcorn.
I make the best popcorn you've ever
I don't want to hear it. You know, you crave what you can't have. There you go.
Was that at full capacity? Like, it doesn't make one pan, that one?
Yes, yeah, this was it. It's a little over 6 liters. I could have made a little more. I could have put another bottle of wine in here. and gotten about 7 liters out.
Get any more wine to take mine.
Does it?
So Jeff's gonna watch this video and find out that he is not indispensable, right? He can,
Oh, no, I need him. Really? Okay.
If I was gonna do it again.
All right. Well, that's interesting because the normal recipe is 2 pounds of sugar, 2 bottles of wine, and 2 bottles of water. But I thought by adding more strawberries, I'd counteract the sugar. Does anybody else think it needs more sugar? Yeah? Okay, that's good. Good to know. Yeah, well, that's the idea of a sorbet, especially after a nice meal at a restaurant, is to have something that leaves you refreshed. One of my favorite places that I've dealt with for many, many years is the River Cafe in Brooklyn, Buzzy O'Keefe, and they love to do a sorbet like this. There you go. Oh, right. Anybody else? I'll take it to Paula. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year. As little as possible. It's going to expand 17% because that's what water does. So 5 quarts in is going to get you 6 out. Yeah.
Just like you said, it could use a little more sugar. Could you let that like melt down a bit, put it back in the machine, add sugar, or what would happen?
I wouldn't. It costs so little to make. I think you're just messing around with the recipe.
Well, I mean, will it change it by, just melt it down?
Yeah, it's always going to have some air cells in it, and in fact, the best way to describe that is in a soft serve business. At the end of the day, what you haven't sold, you take the mix out and put it into a bucket, and they call that rerun because by the morning you'll see there's foam on top, which you skim off. But even though you skim it off, they say charge your soft serve machine with fresh mix and then add this in. Sugar water is so inexpensive. Just throw out your mistakes, and of course, don't give it to anyone. I say that because I had a boss once a long time ago, and I've been in 3 fire companies working, and I was going to make a low quality ice cream for my fire company for the fireman's picnic, and my boss had a fit. He said, "You only give away your very best because it's your reputation that's on the line, and just because they're buying it for free doesn't mean you cheapen it up." That was a good lesson. So if you don't like it, don't serve it. Let me go over to this one. Excuse me? Oh, hell no. Just aggravation. I know you have to leave soon. Do you want to have our vice president show you the factory? Is that good? Okay. Let me line him up and then, because we're just going to make one more product, but that way you can get out. Hey, Jack, can you hear me? Can you turn down my microphone for a minute? Thank you. Be right back. The people from the restaurant, the 3 of them, they had to leave by 2, so I just asked them, and they wanted to see the course. Yeah. The consistency was a gelato, and I would call it a gelato. The Italians would never call Oreo cookie a gelato. In their realm, that wouldn't exist as a flavor.
So it's a speed.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. In fact, I'll pass these around. I always get a laugh out of this. Cappigiani has a... Are my other papers here? No.
There were two plastic covered things up on the...
Oh, okay. Cappigiani, their chairman and I used to have a good time together. And he retired, and they have a new person. And the new person was claiming that they invented the gelato machine before we did. And I said, well, let's see. You've got your patent for a machine showing in 1927, and I've got mine showing patented. Theirs wasn't even patented. It's just where they say they first made it. Mine was 1906. So I'd say, well, that means I made it. We made it years before you were even a company. And he said, oh no, gelato's completely different than ice cream. You didn't make gelato. I said, let's see. Ice cream is milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. What's gelato? Milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. That means, except for the flavors and the air content, they're both the same. And since both machines made a low air content, I'd say pretty safe. We made this machine about 18 years before you were even a company. And that's when he stopped talking to me. But I enjoyed it. He's one of my favorites. And my sister and my brother-in-law moved down here from Lake Forest, Illinois. And Gay liked coffee, too. My sister's name is Gay. And Gay liked coffee. And so she saw I had some in the freezer. And so she said, can I take it home? I said, sure, with one warning. Don't eat this after 6 o'clock at night. I use Taster's Choice freeze-dried coffee to make it. It'll keep you up all night. I didn't see my sister for 2 days. And then she comes in, and her face is like this. And I said, what the hell happened to you? She said, I ate a pint of your ice cream at 11 o'clock at night. I've been up for 48 hours straight. So that, always the optimist and looking for the bright side. I said, okay, if we're going to use Taster's Choice, let's try using the decaf. So now she can eat it to her heart's content, and it's not going to keep her up. I'm a coffee snob. I bring in coffees, and I grind them, and I absolutely love coffee. But if you want to make the best coffee ice cream, the Taster's Choice works better than anything. The freeze-dried crystals will dissolve in the ice cream about 99%, which means every once in a while you get a little crunch. And I make it very strong, even though when you taste it today, it'll be stronger tomorrow. My theory is, if you're a tea drinker, you're not going to go into an ice cream parlor and order coffee ice cream. You don't like coffee. But if you're a coffee drinker, you like a good cup of coffee, and I want it a good, strong cup. So I use the Taster's Choice, and then Gary the curmudgeon up in Massachusetts said, well, coffee has a bite to it, especially these freeze-dried coffees, which are, in the realm of coffee, are cheap. Expensive, but cheap. He said, put a few squirts of Hershey syrup in it. It'll take away the bite, but you'll never taste the chocolate. And it works just beautifully.
Decaf coffee?
This is decaf. Yeah. Yeah, now I use decaf because
So what would happen if you used regular coffee?
you'll be up for 2 days straight like my sister.
Always use decaf? You're selling it to the public, you want to use decaf?
It's up to you. I would normally say use the regular, but I couldn't taste any difference. So as long as there's no taste difference, I'll use the decaf and avoid the problems. So you can see I'm not having to spend a lot of time cleaning up between batches, and I haven't had to take anything apart. Have you all seen our videos at the website? If you haven't, they're a lot of fun. When I was in school down here in Florida, Orlando was so primitive. Disney was just getting going. And Orlando was so primitive that they had what you called homemade commercials. You know, they were not professionally done. They were just on the air, and they only broadcast in the Orlando area. And there was this one guy, and he was a skinny little guy, and he sold used cars. And everybody laughed at him. He would have an old Cadillac with the fins and all, and, you know, beat up old car. And the price is $399, and he's holding up a handwritten $399. And then he would jump on the trunk, and then he would walk up and he'd jump on the roof, and he'd go up and down and go, oh, look, it's dented. Well, we'll just have to cut the price in half. And everybody looked at him and said, look at that fool. I looked at him and said, I want to be him. I want to grow up to be him. And so by making the videos, I think I've made it. I got a great comment from a father one day. He was playing stay-at-home mom for the weekend. And when I was raising kids, we just plunked everybody in front of Sesame Street and said, you know, stay there. Well, he plunked them in front of my videos and just kept running them. And this is how I know I'd made it in the world, you know, much more than money or status or anything else like that. He said the 5-year-old, he's walking past the TV room, and they're watching me on TV, on the videos. And the 5-year-old turns to the 3-year-old and says, now, don't try that on a tailor. I thought, that's it, they're quoting me. So I loved it. The nice thing about the ice cream business is it's a lot of fun. You know, if you walk into an ice cream parlor in a bad mood, you're going to walk out happy. Okay. No? No, but if they drop it, you give them a new one. Oh, there's Sadie again. She wants cookies. Okay, I'm making the coffee. I don't know who's going to clean this mess. I guess it's going to be me.
Steve, do you have an opinion on waffle cones?
I have an opinion on everything.
Actually, I do that, but I'm going to, you know.
When waffle cones first came out, there was a store up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan that bought his ice cream and introduced waffle cones. And so I went in and said, you know, you really ought to, you know, you're starting to get some traction here. You really ought to make your own ice cream. Oh, the ice cream doesn't matter. They're coming in here for the cones. And so I asked a partner, I said, did you ever walk into an ice cream parlor just because of the cone? You know, that's a little ridiculous. I think, but that said, I think they're okay, but they do raise the price of the product. And, you know, so someone invariably is going to say, well, why is Susie's ice cream cone $3.25 and mine is $4.40? Well, because you got yours in a waffle cone. Well, they think the waffle cone should cost the same as the regular cone. And that's a problem. And I don't know a way around it. So I'm kind of against them. Oh, you can do all sorts of fun things. But then again, you got to ask yourself, are you a bakery or are you an ice cream parlor? And if you're going to upset them with the pricing because they are going to cost you more.
I think from what I've experienced, I think most people expect to pay more for a waffle cone. That would be my guess from the people I've talked to. But if you had your own ice cream place, am I hearing you right, you would not do waffle cones?
I would want to concentrate on the ice cream, what I do best, and not get into baking.
Okay.
Also, you're dealing with employees, and you have to understand, Paul and I'm afraid of electricity. Paul and I've been zapped a few times while building machines in the Bronx. And we're the type of people who unplug the toaster before we go to work in the morning. Yeah. And the thought of a hot iron being left to employees while I'm away for the weekend, you know, did they unplug it, that kind of thing, that just scares me. So I don't need the headache. Yes?
Well, in our shop, go ahead and tell them.
We make our own waffle cones.
Oh, and the smell is great.
Exactly.
It'll bring
It
people
brings
in.
the people in.
Where ice cream doesn't have a smell, but I mean, it's part of the experience, you know, it brings them in and it gets them excited, then they see the colors, and it just seems like it just builds, you know. So I think homemade waffle, everybody goes, oh,
We
it
sell
smells.
more waffle cones than cake cones.
Wow.
So good in here.
And how much more, do you mind me asking, if you don't mind me asking, how much more, so you charge 50 more cents if they get the waffle cone versus the...
Now that's not bad. I don't think 50 cents is bad.
In our area, though, I mean, we're from Michigan, which is a small farming community where our shop's at. We're in the farm area. So 50 cents is nothing compared to, we live down here in the winter in Fort Myers Beach.
Okay, so I've just put the taster's choice in there, about 5 ounces. A little bit of Hershey's. Farfars, yeah, very not well. I got a great story about farfars, which is Danish for grandfather.
My daughter, when I used to bring her up there to that, she always had to have the bubble gum.
This gentleman over here brought up a name I hadn't heard in years, but I often tell people about it, called Farfar's ice cream. Farfar is Danish for grandfather. And they always made their own ice cream on my machines. And when the grandfather retired, he moved out to, I think, the Seattle or Washington area to retire. And like anybody who's been in the ice cream business, he remained retired for about 5 minutes and then got bored. And he did something that I thought was absolutely fantastic. And maybe when I get to about 85, I'll consider doing it. And that is, he said, I know all about the ice cream business. And and this is before I did these classes or anything like this, or before anybody was doing anything. And he said, I know all about the ice cream business, and I'll bet you I could charge, say, $30,000 to help someone get into the ice cream business. So instead of opening up a franchise like a Rita's or something, Farfar's said, okay, give me $10,000 up front, and I start off with our book that we send you, which you would generate on a computer nowadays, of all about how to get into the ice cream business and how to do a store and all. And then the second $10,000, he would help you find a location and check it out and make sure it's good. He would help you buy the equipment, not necessarily getting discounts, but buying the proper equipment. That's the next $20,000. And then the $10,000. Then the last $10,000, he would come out for a week and teach you how to run the store and make all the ice cream. When he was all finished, he'd walk away. And you can use his name if you want. You can, he'll be around for as long as he's around. He'll be able to answer questions for you, so you're not paying franchise fees. And the interesting thing about it is he advertised this in the Wall Street Journal, which cost him a lot of money. But the Wall Street Journal is hitting a very high clientele, and so he got people like yourselves, and before I was doing this, who were motivated to, before this, there was no way to know how to get into the ice cream business. And if this guy did, 3 ice cream parlors a year, that's $90,000 in his retirement. I thought that's a pretty clever idea. And these are mini chocolate chips. I always tell people my ideas are not my own. They've all come from somewhere. And that's what started, the combination of Farfars and buying a car is what got me to do these. Yes?
I know part of Pennsylvania Ice Cream University offers the course, and they teach you, they give you advice on how to start the business and all. It's a Pennsylvania Ice Cream University.
Oh, that's Malcolm Stogo. And Malcolm that's his banner right over there. Malcolm used to do all his classes down here, and then he got a little older. So yeah, he and I have been friends for 30 years. And he got a little older, so now he does everything out of his house in New Jersey. He's a New York curmudgeon, which makes him even worse. But nobody knows more about ice cream than he does. You know, he is the grandfather of knowledge. He's my go-to. And, oh yeah, he's terrific. Oh, and let me show you one of his books because we sell it. The ice cream recipes today, which I had to come up with, and some of the sorbet ones, I had to come up with them at 8 o'clock this morning because I got the call at 7:30 that Jeff wasn't coming. I pull them right out of Malcolm's book. Let me get it for you. We sell this for $65, and it's got absolutely everything. Apricot brandy, sorbet, fragola, gelato. Yeah, we sell it. We got them here. Here's the Grand Marnier liqueur ice cream. What's even better is in the very back, he's got a bibliography and an appendix of businesses that both he and I agree are the very best. We agreed with each other many years ago that we would never take a dime from any manufacturer or supplier because you just can't be honest if you're beholden to someone else. And so we only recommend someone if they're fantastic. And so that's all in here. For new businesses, he explains what the equipment does. The only downside to this book is he can get a little exotic. I'll give you an example. Malcolm's peach ice cream. Let me see how I'm doing here. Let me speed this up a little. Malcolm, a typical recipe will be for peach ice cream will be the ice cream mix, fresh peaches where you blanch them in hot water to peel them off, and then something called peach paste, which is it comes out of Italy. And I don't have peach paste. So what I do is, since I don't have the ingredient, I just add more peaches. So it's that simple.
My next question was like, if you want to use like a fruit puree in your ice cream, how
Yeah.
do you do in this machine?
Oh, just fine. Because, I mean, it's a lot easier than putting fruit in. I mean, fruit is weight and stress. Puree is simple.
But it doesn't affect the consistency when it makes it?
No. You can look at that. But that is the Bible of ice cream books. Oh, you can make a half batch. On the small machines, you have to make a full batch. On the bigger ones, you can make a half batch, but you have to watch it carefully because it's not going to be half the time, but it's going to be a lot shorter. And if you made 4 or 5 batches one after another, it would freeze on the walls. So you'd probably have to go 2 batches and then rinse it out. I always tell, I understand about people wanting to experiment and stuff like that. They're really, I don't think there's that much experimenting involved. When you've got a book like Malcolm's, you follow the recipe, it's going to be perfect. And then you adjust it, like we just decided today we're going to adjust the strawberry by adding another probably half a pound of sugar. And so you just write it down so you know what your recipe is going to be. But if you're constantly doing half batches, I would question whether or not you're making flavors anyone wants. Yes. Yeah. No, my machine can take, I've run 22%. It can run anything. I run the 10% because that's what sells in Florida. It's a matter of looking at your market and see what sells. 16% in Florida, you're going to close in a year. It's too heavy. I mean, it's too rich. It makes you sick. Remember, it's 85 degrees out there and 100% humidity. Now, see how that cuts off like a knife? Can you see this? Right there? That means it's ready. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to speed it up. that noise is the gas has not gotten away from the barrel yet. If I wanted to avoid that noise, I would turn off the refrigeration and then let it just run for 30 seconds and it wouldn't make that noise. But I'm pulling out faster than
What's the reason that you are spinning just to take it?
to help push it out. It just gets the job done faster. So, this is a, remember the last one was 140 RPM? This is 165. This is what I would call a super premium. It's lighter than the 140 RPM, but it's much richer than a homemade. And you can see it's rock solid. It's great stuff. So, come on up and try this. This is the last thing we're going to make, and then I'll give you a tour of the factory.
So Steven said that it's 165 RPM. Do you have some select over here? The speed?
Yeah, it says super premium.
Oh, so you ran that.
So I push that, and it's going to go to 165.
Oh, so you have to select this RPM all the time.
No, I only select it if I want to make super premium ice
Okay.
cream. If I want to make homemade,
Okay.
it's going to run at a higher RPM.
Oh, so it's going to select on its own when you push start.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
If I'm doing gelato, it's a lower RPM,
Oh,
so it's going to
okay.
go down to 140.
Okay, but it's going to select on its own.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all automatic.
How do you decide, Steve?
Oh, sorry, I got a scoop.
How do you decide if you're gonna do the homemade or the super premium?
Whatever I feel like doing.
Oh, okay.
And if you find that this sells at this super premium, that's what you call this,
Yeah,
then
That's what you would do.
that's what you would do, because that's what they would expect.
yeah.
That-
So you just,
You get more volume too,
Yeah.
which you make more money. Well, we're dipping a lot of cold, though. You gotta get it colder. Gelato, right? Gelato is warmer served.
yes.
Ice cream, if it's colder.
See, this is ready. This is ready to serve right now. This is a good consistency.
What is it? Right.
I've never tasted coffee.
Why don't you try this? Because it's so enveloped in cream that it isn't going to hurt
I'll tell
you.
you why I've never tasted coffee, believe it or not. And I could take you to the house today. Growing up trick-or-treating, this lady gave us coffee flavored
Uh-huh.
lifesavers.
Oh,
And when I tasted
Heck.
those, I thought, if this is what coffee tastes like, forget it. And I'm telling you the truth, I've never tasted coffee.
huh.
Ever.
If you ever get a headache, it's the fastest way to get rid of it.
Oh, really?
I don't like the coffee flavor, but with the chocolate chips, I like it with it tastes better when you have a chocolate chip with it. Is it really?
Steve, I have one more question that I have done some research. When you sell the ice cream, they have a debate on that you sell it on a fluid ounce or ounce. How do you sell by weight?
By weight,
Yeah, but how?
finished product.
But they say that you can sell by fluid ounce
No.
and ounce.
That's in kilograms. Hold on.
You have to select the unit ounce,
It
right?
switches on me. That's zero set. Units.
Ounce. You selected ounce, right?
There's a 3.2 ounce portion. That's what I'm selling.
Why
By weight.
Why they talk about that? There's a tricky.
I have no idea. It's not tricky. It's right there.
Basically, it can be sold by the fluid ounce also. That will be.
You can't sell it by fluid ounce because it's not a fluid. It's a weighted product. This is like a piece of steak. You can't call it a fluid ounce.
Hey, Steve, do you have a recommendation for a brand of hardening cabinet if a person was gonna buy one?
Global used to be called Kelvinator. And I would go to turnkeyparlor.com and talk to Trish. Let me get rid of this. I'll be right back. And then we'll take a tour of the factory and we're done. Can you believe that? 5 hours. Thank you.
Steve, thank
Good to see you. So long.
What's that?
Well, if you'd like to come on a tour of the factory, I'll show you around. And then we're done. Thank you for coming. down a little bit. Come over here. Because it's not dairy, it's sugar and water, and so it comes out ready. It's the difference between dairy and non-dairy. No, it.